This should help you remember everything.
This fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me.
Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
For the Miami Heat, a stunning ending to one of the more compelling seasons in NBA history. LeBron James captures that elusive title he's so desperately coveted. Allen, history title, bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
You want to feel old? Well, this offseason marks the 15-year anniversary that the Big Three Miami Heat came together. LeBron, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh formed maybe the most famous super team in the history of the league, and they took the NBA by storm.
4 straight finals appearances, 2 championships, and one of the most iconic teams in NBA history.
Before we start talking about the Heatles, if you haven't already, make sure you give this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So by 2010 free agency, the Heat had kind of just been wandering in the woods ever since their championship in 2006. Obviously, they won the title, beat the 64-win Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then knocked off Dirk's Mavericks in the NBA Finals. So they're coming off a great season, but their 2007 season was honestly really disappointing considering they were coming off a championship. Both Dwyane Wade and Shaq missed a lot of time with injuries. The production of basically all their key pieces outside of Dwyane Wade slipped quite a bit. They only won 44 games. That was still somehow good enough for the 4th seed because they won the garbage Southwest Division that year, but they got swept by a Bulls team led by Ben Gordon, Luol Deng, and Kirk Heinrich. Also, first time a defending champion had been swept in the first round since 1957.
Hey, those Bulls teams had some dogs. Pre-D Rose, Kirk Heinrich, Ben Gordon was a bucket, Luol Deng.
The Heat had Wade and Shaq.
Nah, I'm just playing. That's crazy. You win the finals and then you get swept in the first round the following year. It's a very tough season, but if you thought 2007 was bad, just wait until 2008. Before the season even starts, you lose Gary Payton to retirement and James Posey goes north up to Boston. 2 key members of that 2006 title team. The Heat were already not a very deep team. You lose 2 guys who were important. That's a huge loss. And who do they bring in? They bring in Kobe's best friend, Smush Parker.
Well, I mean, Smush hated Kobe, so maybe he and Shaq got along good
yeah.
enough around this time, because Shaq and Kobe were not on great terms by this point, so maybe they got along, but didn't exactly improve the roster.
They were just tearing into him in the locker room.
Like you mentioned, though, this season was a straight-up disaster. First of all, this is kind of funny. This was the Heat's 20th season in existence, so they wore an XX patch on their jerseys to, you know, commemorate this season because it was going to be such a great one. No, it wasn't. Shaq and Dwyane Wade again struggled with injuries. The play of everyone not named Dwyane Wade was unimpressive at best and downright awful at worst. They traded Shaq to Phoenix mid-season. They got back Sean Marion and Marcus Banks. They lost their first 5 games of the season and they never recovered. In fact, they had a run from Christmas until late February where they went 1-25.
That's an all-time fall-off for a team that just won the title less than 2 years ago. I can't think of another thing that's similar to that.
Warriors in 2019.
Okay, yeah.
Playing in the finals to worst record in the league.
I guess that's true, but at least they lost like a major piece in Kevin Durant. Like technically Shaq was still on the team before they traded him. And you can say like, oh, why did the Heat trade Shaq so early and whatever. I think it was the right move. What the fuck was Phoenix thinking?
No fucking clue. This was the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns team that was like, we're gonna run. We're gonna push the pace, take all the shots we can. Don't even worry about playing defense because we want to get the ball back so we can score. And you bring in mid-30s Shaquille O'Neal? Why?
I don't get it. I really don't.
This is a team that wants to run that brings in probably the slowest center in the league.
Yep. Back to the Heat though. Just a terrible season. They only won 15 games. That doesn't even sound real. The worst in franchise history. And coincidentally, celebrating their 20th season, that's the same amount of wins they had their first season in the NBA.
Gotta mark the occasion.
Yeah. No better way to celebrate than running back the clock.
week. Pat Riley, at the end of the season, he stepped down as head coach to resume his front office role, and Eric Spoelstra was promoted to replace Riley. Obviously, we've all heard this story by this point. Spoelstra was hired as a video coordinator for the Heat in 1995, worked his way up to assistant coach. In fact, he was actually the coach that a lot of people credit for helping Dwyane Wade improve his jump shot, and he eventually gets promoted up to head coach. And 2009, to be fair to the Heat, was a huge bounce back season, although bungled the 2008 NBA draft, and they bungled it badly.
Yeah, I mean, the Miami Heat are a team that's not often in the lottery, but they had the second pick in a pretty stacked draft. They couldn't get D-Rose. He went first overall. He went to the Bulls, but they had guys like Russ on the board. Kevin Love was there. They also could add Brook Lopez. He went later, so probably weren't going to take him, but that's another guy, future All-Star they could have had. And they go with Michael Beasley, who, to be fair,
was a bucket at Kansas State.
He was an absolute bucket at Kansas State. He was a joy to watch there. Honestly, one of the more talented prospects we've seen just based off of pure talent, but he was not good in the NBA.
The thing about Beasley is he probably would have gone 1 in a lot of other years.
I think there was even a debate between like D-Rose or Beasley. Like, he could have gone number 1, but luckily the Bulls took Rose. I will give the Miami Heat some credit here because they took Mario Chalmers in the second round. He'd go on to start all 82 regular season games the following year. Great pickup for them. Like, Mario Chalmers had his moments where he wasn't the best for the Heat, but he was still a key piece to those championship teams.
And he was just a second round pick.
Yeah.
The fact that a second round pick started all 82 games as a rookie.
And they got him fucked up that he fell in the second round, because who could forget how clutch he came up in that championship game against Memphis,
against
and
Derrick Rose. Yeah, against Derrick Rose. Also in the offseason, they lost Jason Williams and Ricky Davis, but they brought in Sean Livingston with his glitched mid-range shot. So not a great free agency, but not the worst. Got off to a much better start this year. They went 17-13 after their first 30 games, but then they literally went 500 in every single month remaining in the season. 8-8 in January, 6-6 in February, 8-8 in March, and 4-4 in April. Basically the textbook definition of just a mid-Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, classic, just straight mid. And they were like, you know what? We lost Shaq, we lost Shaquille O'Neal recently. We got to bring in another O'Neal. So they traded the exact same package they got for Shaq, sent it to the Pacers to get Jermaine O'Neal.
I mean, to be fair to the Heat, trading for an O'Neal worked out pretty well for them the first time.
Yeah.
Got a championship out of it. So like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's try again. Why not? I mean, let's get Jermaine O'Neal. Why not?
Yeah, Jermaine O'Neal, he honestly didn't end up doing much there. The Miami Heat won 43 games. They matched up with the Atlanta Hawks in the first round, which would go on to be probably the worst playoff series in NBA history.
Which is weird to say, because it went 7. So you might be wondering like, well, how could a series that went 7 and was, I guess by definition, competitive, how can you say it's so bad? Well, I'll tell you how. The margins of victory in this series were 26, 15, 29, 10, 15, 26, and 13. That is an average margin of victory of 19.1. Not a single close game. The closest game in this series was a 10-point game, which in 2009 is like 17 nowadays.
Yeah, 29 back then. That's like damn near a 50-point blowout.
It is. It's not like the home team just won every game. Like the Heat and Hawks were blowing each other out on the road too. It's just no game in this series was competitive at all.
Yeah, the Heat would eventually bow out in 7. Still a big bounce back year because of what happened last year, but definitely not what Pat Riley wants to see. I mean, Pat Riley wants rings. He wants deep playoff runs. He doesn't care about some moral victory of making the playoffs. Like, he wants to see more than that.
2010, the Heat, they marginally improved. They really only made some minor roster changes. They won 47 games though, matched up with the Celtics in the first round, dropped game 1 by 9 despite leading by 2 heading into the fourth, and then in game 2 got blasted by 29 points. And then game 3 in Miami, it's tied at 98, and on the Heat's last possession, Dwyane Wade missed a 3 that would have given them the lead, and he tweaked his hamstring on the way down. That means he wasn't on the court for the final possession, where Paul Pierce hit that buzzer beater over Darrell Wright that gave the Celtics the win. Wade dropped 46 in game 4 to keep the Heat season alive, but they were beaten fairly comfortably back in Boston in game 5. So for the second straight year, the Heat improve. They got better, won 4 more games than they had the year prior, but they're also bounced in the first round.
D-Wade and LeBron both going down to the Celtics. I mean, maybe they need to team up or something to beat them. That's all I'm saying.
I can tell you I didn't think that at the time. I was like, that's not even possible.
Well, we'll see what happens. Now on to the 2010 free agency class. It remains the best in NBA history, and I don't think anything's gonna top it anytime soon. Some of these guys were like technically free agents, not necessarily gonna go anywhere, but this was the class. LeBron, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh, Dirk, Amari, Joe Johnson, Yao, Carlos Boozer, Rudy Gay, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and hell, even David Lee was pretty good at the time. 28% of NBA All-Stars from the previous season, and a third of the All-NBA players were up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, like, some of these guys were free agents only, like, technically, like you said. Like, I don't think anyone thought Dirk or Yao were gonna leave the Mavericks or the Rockets, but some other guys, they did leave their teams. Obviously, Amari, he signed with the Knicks. Carlos Boozer, he signed with Chicago. And then on July 7th, the Heat had one hell of a day. They re-signed Dwyane Wade, and they landed Chris Bosh. They both did that simulcast where they revealed who they were gonna play for on SportsCenter, getting interviewed by Michael Wilbon.
Yeah, and once we found out they were going to the Heat, I always bring it up. When I first saw it, I was like, LeBron's going there as well.
I didn't, because I still subscribe to that like old head notion of like the best player in the league or like a top 5 player in the league can't leave their team at all. I was like, oh, he's just gonna stay in Cleveland. Like, there's no way he would go to Miami. Like, I also think this was just 12-year-old me couldn't process the idea of seeing LeBron in a different jersey than a Cavs jersey. It was all I knew at that point. Like, I couldn't compute that he could go somewhere else. But of course, the very next day, we have a video on already about the whole whirlwind free agency that LeBron went through. He announced via the decision that he was signing with Miami. Now, I will say, I didn't believe it could happen, but I was the LeBron simp at the time. So I was really happy it did happen because I was like, my man's finally gonna get some help.
No, I was ready to hate his guts. I hated this Heat team, at least at first. They won me over time, but at first I could not stand them. It just felt so like cheap and overpowered, and another big market team was gonna be dominant. The NBA was already dominated by the Lakers and the Celtics at the time. So I was pissed. And needless to say, that was the predominant reaction among NBA fans.
If you're not from Miami.
Yeah, if you're not from Miami and you weren't a LeBron fan, you were pissed and you were gonna hate the hell out of this team.
I think most of the hate was for LeBron specifically, but like Ronald Reagan would have been proud because this was some trickle down like haternomics right here.
Exactly.
And like it trickled down to the whole rest of the roster. Everyone started hating Dwyane Wade all of a sudden, and Chris Bosh all of a sudden. Also, it didn't help that they threw that party for themselves. Like,
okay, that party is ridiculous.
That party is high fucking hilarious. I'm sorry. Like, they got the band and the trumpets and the cheerleaders. This one goober up on stage who was like, yes, we did. Yes, we did. Brilliant.
God, and LeBron doing the not 1, not 2, and obviously he gets up to 7 or 8 or whatever he says. I don't know how they would have done that. Like Dwyane Wade at like 36 apparently was still going to be catching lobs from him in his mind.
Why not?
I mean, we'll talk about D-Wade later. Obviously, he was still great for these teams. No hate to D-Wade, NBA legend. But by the end of this run with the Heatles, his knees were kind of gone.
So the Heat, they accomplished what they set out to do in free agency. They landed all 3 of the big 3 that they wanted. But what about the rest of the roster? Because it's kind of a little known fact, but when the Heat signed LeBron and Bosh, they did so through sign and trade deals. So they actually sent out 4 first-round picks in the process to get those 2 guys. Obviously, it's worth it. Obviously, you do it. But it's not like you just sign them for nothing like, say, the Warriors did with Kevin Durant.
I mean, they were able to bring back Udonis Haslem. He took less money to go back to Miami. Joel Anthony, Carlos Arroyo. Then they just kind of threw together some veterans. Mike Miller, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Dude was like, fuck it, I'll follow LeBron. I'm trying to win a ring. Juwan Howard, Eddie House. And then a fun fact, Patrick Beverley was signed to the initial roster, but he got cut before the season started.
Can you imagine if he had stayed on the roster
No.
and won a ring with them?
And I don't want to imagine that. Because
you don't want to live in that world.
Pat Bev is already the most annoying player in the NBA, I'd say.
That's Draymond.
Okay, I was gonna say, at least he's up there with Draymond. If this would have happened, he'd be insufferable. I wouldn't be able to deal with it. Imagine him with 2 rings and LeBron in that era. Like, no, I don't even want to think about that.
And if you weren't around for this team, it can be kind of hard to remember the hype coming into this season. This was, and I don't think I'm speaking in hyperbole here, the most hyped team in NBA history. More so than the 2017 Warriors. More so than, you know, the Nets with their big 3, or the Lakers when they got AD, whoever you want to say. This team was the most hyped team in NBA history. People were talking about them being the best team of all time before they'd even stepped on the court together. People were saying they were going to break the Bulls' record of 72 wins. LeBron was talking about how he could be the first player since Oscar Robertson to average a triple-double.
I mean, I get it, and I definitely felt at the time, like, the hype to see them play, just to hate watch them was there. And I get people thinking they were going to be amazing. And this was an era where stars dominated. You didn't need a super deep roster. But I mean, come on, you got to look at the rest of the roster a little bit and be like, okay, maybe they're not going to win 73, 74 games. Like, they're going to be good, but
they had 2 of the top 3 players in the league and probably 3 of the top 10 players in the league.
That's true. I mean,
and like you said, this was an era before you really needed a deep roster. This ain't modern day NBA. I will say though, breaking the Bulls record might have been a bit too much.
Yeah, that's a bit too far. But back to the hype of this team, like literally the preseason game was even a spectacle. Like usually the preseason, who even watches that shit? We're hoops heads. We don't watch the preseason. But just seeing LeBron like in a Heat jersey
broke my mind as a kid.
It felt so weird.
Their first preseason game though, like as big a spectacle as it was almost a disaster because Dwyane Wade tweaked his hamstring only 3 minutes into the game. He would end up being fine for the start of the regular season, but season nearly got derailed before it even started. Like I said though, Wade was fine for the start of the season, and their season began on the road against the defending Eastern Conference champions, the Boston Celtics, and it was immediately obvious that this team was going to be a work in progress. The Heat scored 9 points in the first quarter, shot 4 of 17 from the field, and turned the ball over 6 times.
Yeah, they did cut in the lead, and they nearly won the thing. I mean, they cut the lead down to 3 with just a minute to go in the fourth, but then Ray Allen hit a huge 3 on the next possession, and that was essentially the dagger. Celtics win 88-80 to spoil the Big Three's debut, and this game did some damn numbers. It drew a 4.6 rating. It was watched by 7.4 million viewers. That was the second highest rated NBA regular season in TNT's history, beaten only by the Bulls versus Lakers in '96. That was Magic and Jordan's first game against each other since they both came out of retirement. The Heat game did have more viewers though, and kind of a weird fact, LeBron has lost every regular season debut on a new team he's been on, like the Cavs, first time against the Kings, he lost that. He lost at Boston. Cavs, second time he lost versus the Knicks, and then his Lakers first game we were at versus Portland, he lost that as well. Weird stat,
but I mean, when you're done in by a guy like Nick Stauskas, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Nothing else you can do when Nick Stauskas drops 24 on your head.
The Heat would go on to win their next 4 games, but still, they had a rocky first month of the season. They dropped a home game to Utah where they blew a 23-point lead, and they also dropped another home game to Boston. They also suffered a 3-game losing streak, and as a part of that, there was the game against the Grizzlies where Rudy Gay hit that buzzer beater. In the same game, they also lost Udonis Haslem to a season-ending injury. Early in the season, though, even though this team wasn't really winning at the clip we all thought they were going to be winning at, they were still entertaining as fuck to watch. I mean, watching D Wade and LeBron get out on the fast break, throwing alley-oops to each other. I mean, most of the time it was Wade throwing lobs to LeBron. So much fun to watch. I remember one against New Jersey they had early in the season where they get out on the fast break, and then for some reason the camera like switches to like the baseline view right as Wade's lobbing it up to LeBron for just a powerhouse dunk. I mean, this team was so much fun to watch.
And then on December 6th, we got that iconic photo of like Wade with his hands stretched out and LeBron dunking the ball behind him. Not just one of the most iconic NBA photos ever, it is one of the most iconic sports photos ever. It's one of my favorite. I mean, I know this, I'm biased. It's an era I watch, but love that photo so much.
And it's so funny that most people think it's off an alley-oop because it's not. Like Wade just kind of drops the ball off to LeBron, and LeBron dunks it down. Like the picture is iconic. It's one of the best of all time. The play itself is fine. It's okay, but it's not the picture.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the picture kind of represents all their alley-oops and amazing plays and everything they did together, but
it's one of their most underwhelming. If you
really
watch the actual play, although it's been memed to hell and back. I mean, the Woody and Buzz one.
That one was out of pocket.
It was out of pocket, but me, it was funny.
It was amazing. Whoever did it, just class for that.
And after a November 27th loss to the Dallas Mavericks, the Heat, hyped as maybe the best team of all time, had a 9-8 record and sat as the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I was doubting like that they were going to break the Bulls record or anything crazy like that, but I did not expect them to basically be a 500 team. Like, obviously you got to factor in like it's going to take some time playing together, but damn, 9-8 when you got LeBron, D Wade, and Bosh, things were not looking good.
And during that loss to the Mavericks, there was the infamous bump where LeBron bumped Eric Spoelstra as he was walking to the bench for a timeout. Spoelstra said after the game that he didn't even notice it, but as with basically everything this team did, this caused a media firestorm. I mean, the team was already struggling and Spoelstra was taking a lot of heat. Brian Windhorst, of course, you know, the LeBron guy, for his whole career, he opined that LeBron's bump was no doubt a declaration. Didn't bother to declare what that declaration was, but it has come out in recent years that after that loss, the Big Three met with Pat Riley, and LeBron suggested to Riley that he needs to come back down to the sidelines and coach the team.
Well, I'm not surprised by that at all, because LeBron always loves the guys who are kind of like basketball royalty or have like a lot of credentials and experience in basketball. So I honestly thought there was something to this. Like, it didn't seem like Eric Spoelstra and LeBron had the best relationship. It seemed like, you know, LeBron didn't really respect Spoelstra a ton. Obviously, things would work out, and Spoelstra, in my opinion, nowadays is the best coach in the league. There was definitely something to this. It felt like probably was just a bump, but like you said, everything this team did was going to be magnified, and the media was going to cover like crazy.
Riley, though, of course, he was adamant that he was not coming back to coach. Spoelstra would remain the head coach, and immediately after this, the Heat began a run where they won 21 of their next 22 games. That obviously included LeBron's return to Cleveland. We already have a video on that if you want to check it out. Definitely, I think, the most hostile road environment in NBA history, and I don't think we're ever going to see one more hostile.
No, nothing's going to be even close. I don't even know what could happen that would lead to something as close as that. Nothing's going to top that. They also had that iconic matchup with the Lakers on Christmas, which was really kind of the moment where I felt like, okay, they've figured some things out. They led by as many as 21, and they won the game 96-80. Only loss they had in that stretch at home versus Dallas.
Wonder if that'll come up.
Probably not. They're not going to see the Mavericks in the finals. They're going to see someone else. So they don't even got to worry about
They'll see the Lakers, and they thumped them on Christmas. Also, in their last game before the All-Star break, they ventured up to the Great White North to face the Raptors in Chris Bosh's return to Toronto. Definitely not as hostile as LeBron's return to Cleveland. Still an emotional night for Bosh, though, and he dropped 25 as the Heat got the win 103-95.
At the All-Star break, of course, all three members of the Big Three made the All-Star team. LeBron and Wade started while Bosh came off the bench. James Jones also won the three-point contest. He beat out KD, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. LeBron put up 29, while Wade and Bosh both chipped in 14 apiece in the All-Star game, but the East lost 148-143. And in the second half of the season, the Heat just seemed to develop a reoccurring problem. They had trouble closing games.
Yeah, I mean, they lost that home game to the Knicks where Amari blocked LeBron's layup at the end of the game. They blew a 24-point second half lead at home against the Magic. Worst of all, though, they dropped two close games to Chicago, including one at home where both LeBron and Wade had shots at the end to win the game, and neither of them could get it done. And that loss to Chicago meant the Bulls swept Miami 3-0 in the season series. Hell, they even took a home loss to the Blazers at one point that put them on a 5-game losing streak.
It's kind of weird again. Like, it seems like everything's clicking. It's like, okay, this team's got everything going, and then for whatever reason, they kind of regressed. They did finish out the season pretty well. They went 15-4 in their final 19 games, beat the Lakers at home again, so they swept the Lakers in the regular season. But a 58-24 record for all the hype, the Big Three, LeBron James, not even getting the first seed. The Bulls, who won 62 games, would get that. Definitely a disappointing regular season, any way you want to judge it.
The fact that they couldn't even match LeBron's prior two seasons in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's a good point.
66 wins and 61 wins. You couldn't even get to that. It was only 58 wins. Huge disappointment. To put it into context at this point, this wasn't even the best regular season in Miami Heat history.
Round one against the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, Miami are huge favorites going into this series. This Sixers team, though, actually had some kind of familiar names you'll recognize. This was back when Iggy was still there. Young Drew Holiday, Elton Brand, rookie Evan Turner, Lou Williams. So they had some guys. And they took a lead early on. The Heat trailed by 14 early in the second quarter, but they just slowly chipped away, and midway through the second, they actually took the lead thanks to a three from Mario Chalmers. The Heat would then extend that lead to double digits, and credit to the Sixers, they would keep things close. They got the lead down to as little as one with just over 2 minutes left in the game, but the Heat hold on and win 97-89. The game two was just a rout from the very beginning.
Yeah, LeBron had 29, Bosh had 21. Heat held the Sixers to only 73 points en route to a 21-point victory. So up 2-0 going back to Philadelphia, and game three in Philly, I mean, fair credit to the Sixers. They start out a 9-0 run, led the entire first half. The Heat took a brief lead right out of halftime, but the Sixers immediately took it right back. The Heat kept pace mainly behind Wade and LeBron, including an iconic play where LeBron goes around his back, loses his balance, but as he's falling over, just shuffles a little pass to Wade for a dunk. I mean, these two on the break were just special. They gave us iconic play after iconic play. The Heat, though, again, They trailed heading into the fourth, but LeBron hit a three right at the start of the quarter, put the Heat up 1, and they would go on to dominate the fourth quarter. They built the lead up to 10. LeBron and Wade made clutch plays down the stretch, including Wade getting a putback dunk off a LeBron missed three, and the Heat eventually win 100-94. They take a 3-0 lead in the series.
Game 4, it was a weird one.
It was.
The Sixers dominated the first quarter. They led by 28-16 after the first, but then in turn, the Heat dominated the second quarter, outscoring the 76ers 31-18. They take a 1-point lead going into halftime, and the game was close until early in the fourth. The Heat kind of extended their lead, took a 7-point lead, so it looks like the Heat are going to pull away and sweep them, but this Sixers team refused to go away. They respond with a quick 9-2 run to tie the game at 75, despite falling back down by 4 again. Huge threes, one by Drew Holiday, and then another by Lou Williams late in the game, puts them up 2 with under 10 seconds left, but LeBron, he's determined to get the lead back. He goes downhill, gets past his man, but then Elton Brand, the defensive stopper he is.
The defensive stopper, sure.
Sarcasm, if you couldn't realize that. He swats it, and the Sixers seal the game at the line. They win 86-82 to extend the series to a 5th game in Miami.
And in game 5, like games 1, 3, and 4, the Sixers, they got off to a really hot start, took a 14-4 lead. The Heat, though, by the end of the quarter, they took the lead back thanks to 3 threes by Mario Chalmers. And fair play to the Sixers. They hung around with the Heat a lot in this series, and they did so in game 5 as well. They even took the lead a few times in the second half, and they had chances to tie the game up near the end, but they could just never quite get over the hump. The Heat hold on 97-91. They win the series, and so in round 2, they're going up against the Boston Celtics. A very highly anticipated matchup because you just got history on all sides. Wade the year prior knocked out of the playoffs by the Celtics. LeBron also the year prior knocked out of the playoffs by the Celtics. The end of his run in Cleveland. Also, he was knocked out in 2008 in 7 games by the Boston Celtics. So this was the matchup going into the playoffs that I think we all wanted to see.
Yeah, from the Celtics perspective, the Heat kind of were built to stop them. They had made the finals 2 of the past 3 years. Obviously, like you just mentioned, they had taken out LeBron. They had just taken out Wade. So they saw this big 3 as the big 3 built to stop them. Game 1 was back and forth in the first quarter until the Heat kind of started to take control. But it has to be mentioned, this game was chippy as hell. You could tell these two teams did not like each other whatsoever.
Oh, they fucking hated each other. The Heat, though, they would eventually build their lead as high as 17 late in the third quarter. And by the end, it was kind of just all going wrong for Boston. Paul Pierce got ejected in the fourth, and the Heat would go on to win 99-90, mostly behind Dwyane Wade's 38 points. So going into game 2, and fun fact about game 2, this was the day after Osama bin Laden was killed. So very emotional, Star-Spangled Banner in Miami, and also a big sign in the crowd saying, "Thank you, Obama."
They were also thanking SEAL Team 6. So, credit all around for getting the job done.
Gold stars for everybody.
Yeah. The game was kind of similar to game 1. The Celtics hung around a little bit longer this time. It was close in the fourth quarter. Hell, it was a tie game at 80 with 7 minutes to go. But then the Heat immediately go on a 14-0 run. When this team was on, they were on, and there was not much you could do to stop them. They win 102-91. Wade again was great with 28 points. LeBron joins in, dropping 35. They're up 2-0, and we're headed back to Boston for game 3.
Hey, though, in game 3, the Celtics, they got some reinforcements, some pretty big reinforcements, because they got Shaq back.
Right. NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal, or at least what was left of him.
That's really all you could say to the sentence, "Oh, they got Shaq back." It's like, right, yeah. Even by Celtics Shaq standards, he was done.
It looked painful, him moving up and down the court at this point.
It did. It was painful to watch, too.
It really was.
After a quick start by the Celtics, though, the Heat fought back, and by halftime, they had taken the lead back from Boston. Wade was excellent in the first half. He had 14 points, while Pierce and Garnett were leading the Celtics. They each had 12 apiece. I do find it hilarious, just this era of the NBA, because keep in mind, the Celtics had Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Delonte West, and Jeff Green, and they took 4 3-point attempts in the first half. Most teams nowadays do that in the first half of the first quarter. And this team had 4 really good 3-point shooters. 2 of the best of all time in Pierce and Allen. And you take 4 threes and a half. By the way, shot 100%. So maybe they should have taken more.
Doc Rivers chill on those threes. We got to feed Garnett.
Can't be hitting too many, guys. Big Perk needs his touches.
There was a moment of just near disaster that would have basically put an end to the Celtics season when Wade fell on Rondo, dislocated dislocated Rondo's elbow. God, it looked bad.
His elbow bends the wrong way.
It does.
It nearly made me throw up as a kid because I remember just watching it and being like, oh my fucking God. Like, your elbow can't bend like that. And yet Rondo gets back out there. You can tell he's on one arm. Like, he's only handling the ball with his right arm. He's only passing and shooting with his right arm. Dude's a one-armed hooper out there, and he was still playing incredible.
Hooked the boy up with that Toradol, and he was just balling out from there. I mean, it was still Rondo. I mean, he was doing his passing, you know, getting his layups, getting out in the fast break. It was just on one arm, and Celtics just dominated the second half. They outscored the Heat 53-35, cruised to a 97-81 victory. Wade was okay for the Heat. I mean, he had 23 on 8 of 19 shooting, but Bosh and LeBron were bad. They combined for 21 points on 7 of 22 shooting, and meanwhile, the Celtics got 70 from their big three, and Rondo on just one arm, still dishing out 11 assists. It's what he does.
Game 4, though, it was time for the Heat to get some reinforcements. They finally got back Udonis Haslem from injury. Remember, he was injured way back at the start of the season against the Memphis Grizzlies, so they get him back, and Game 4 was a just classic back and forth Miami and Boston game from this era. Down the stretch, I mean, it was incredible. With under 2.5 minutes to go, Ray Allen hits a three to put the Celtics up 3 before LeBron immediately answers with a 3 of his own to tie the game up. LeBron then hits a layup with 48 seconds left to give the Heat the lead, only for Paul Pierce to make a layup less than 7 seconds later to tie the game back up. And after a LeBron turnover on the next possession, Pierce has one final attempt, but LeBron plays good defense. Pierce's step back is off, so we're off to overtime in Boston. And in OT, the big 3 for the Heat dominate the big 3 for the Celtics. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh scored all 12 of the Heat's points in OT. Wade hit a fadeaway 3 with a little over 2 minutes left in the game that put them up 7, and Chris Bosh's tip in with 24 seconds left to extend the lead to 5 was basically the dagger for Miami. The Heat win 98-90. They take a 3-1 lead in the series. You want to talk about a carry job from Miami's big 3? 83 of their 98 points.
Yeah, I mean, they had to. Mike Bibby wasn't balling out and giving you points. Big Z was pretty washed up at this point.
Big Z was barely playing at this point.
Exactly. It was basically the big 3 scoring, and that was about it. Also, it has to be mentioned, this was Shaq's final NBA game. Probably should have hung up those big ass shoes like a year or 2 prior to this, but shout out Shaq, amazing career. Fortunately, he couldn't go out on top, but he still got his rings. Don't worry about him.
Had to complete the rainbow though.
Oh, he did. Game 5, we're back in Miami. Closeout game here, and the Celtics kind of more or less controlled the whole game. I mean, the Heat briefly took a lead in the third quarter, but then the Celtics just snagged that right back. They had a 7-point lead early in the fourth quarter. The Heat come back and tie the game 87 thanks to a Chris Bosh dunk. And then you have one of the more iconic sequences of this Miami Heat era. I mean, if you search up like most hyped playoff moments, NBA, you're gonna find this sequence there.
Oh yeah.
LeBron hits a corner 3 to give Miami the lead. On the next possession, Jeff Green just misses a point-blank layup that would have cut the lead down to 1. Wade then took 2 pretty bad shots on the next possession. One was a tough layup, the other was a step back. So the Celtics have the ball back with a minute and a half to play, a chance to tie the game, and then Paul Pierce just a bad pass to Jeff Green. Ball goes out of bounds. And on the next possession, LeBron hits that step back 3 over Paul Pierce to extend the lead to 6. His reaction is so funny. Like, he's just breathing, taking the moment in, looking around.
I fucking love this reaction. It's like he's just processing what he's done. Like he's finally gotten over that hump. I also love how right after he makes the shot, it just shows Rondo on the bench, who's clearly furious. Like he's just not having it. And then LeBron, of course, like he goes from like processing, realizing what he's done, and then he gets that like smug, like mean mug that he would get around this era, goes back to the bench. Then on the next possession, I mean, the Celtics, they're not completely out of it, but it's looking pretty grim for them. But it's all over when Delonte West throws a bad pass. LeBron picks it off, gets a dunk on the breakaway, kind of looks surprised as hell that he's actually got a breakaway dunk, but he throws it down. And then on the very next possession, Delonte West commits an offensive foul on Dwyane Wade. Kind of a sequence to forget for Delonte West, but Wade's up, he's screaming, LeBron's screaming. Just one of the most, like you said earlier, hyped like playoff sequences you're ever gonna see. And LeBron hit one more layup just for good measure to finish off the Celtics.
Yeah, the crowd was going just fucking wild. The Heat win 97-87. Just a big relief off LeBron's back to finally beat this Celtics team. And it's funny to note, none of the Boston Celtics, like Big Three or basically anyone on on the team shook the Miami Heat's hand and congratulated them, besides Ray Allen.
Wonder if that will come up.
My theory is he saw the future. He's like, these boys I'm playing with are getting washed up.
He was playing the long game.
Exactly.
So off to the conference finals against the top-seeded Chicago Bulls. A Bulls team that, lest we forget, went 3-0 against Miami in the regular season. They were led by the MVP in Derrick Rose. They had the top defense in the entire NBA. They had a very stout front court with Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah. Although going into the series, it was really impressive how well the Heat were closing their games. Because down the stretch of the regular season, that was like the big criticism of this team. It was like, is Wade gonna take the last shot? Is LeBron gonna take the last shot? It was like, who's it gonna be? And really, outside of game 4 against Philadelphia, they had been closing games incredibly well. It was important to note going into this series. Let's just say that.
Yeah, the Chicago Bulls kind of were the opposite in a way to this Miami Heat team because, you know, they had that stout front court, like you mentioned. They swept the Heat during the regular season. So it presented an interesting matchup. Like, could Miami, with kind of their lack of depth in the front court, handle the Bulls? And in game 1, it really didn't look like they could. Like, the first half was back and forth. The Heat actually led for most of the first half. Game was tied at 48 at halftime. Big Three carrying. They had 39 of those 48 points. But then the Heat just got crushed in the second half. They got outscored 55-34. They actually shot a better percentage, which doesn't sound real. You get outscored by 21, but you shoot 46.4% to the Bulls 44.2. But they had 8 turnovers compared to Chicago's 1, and they got killed 9-0 on the offensive glass. Just, I mean, Boozer, Noah, Taj Gibson, even Omar Ashik out there. Like, they had a very good front court, and the Miami Heat in game 1 could not keep up.
Also throw in that Chicago shot 7 of 14 from 3 in the second half.
Right.
That wasn't happening very often. And the Bulls, they put the exclamation point on a 21-point game 1 win with a Taj Gibson putback dunk. That's gotta hurt.
I mean, Taj Gibson back then could play off the bench.
He could. He really could. So obviously not the game 1 you want. So going into game 2, Bulls, they get off to a good start. They're up by 7 after the first quarter thanks to a half-court shot by Luol Deng, of all people. But after that, the Heat really dominated this game. They took the lead before halftime thanks to a LeBron layup, and they built that lead up to 11 in the third quarter. The Bulls fought back, and they actually tied the game at 73 with a little over 7 minutes to go in the game. But over those last 7 minutes, the Heat closed the game out on a 12-2 run. LeBron and Wade scored all 12 of those points, and the Bulls offense went ice cold. They shot 34% from the field in this game, 3 of 20 from 3. Far cry from that 7 of 14 in the second half in game 1. Meanwhile, LeBron and Wade combined for 53, and the Heat even the series at 1.
Back in Miami, the Heat now have home court, and game 3 was more or less a wire-to-wire victory for Miami. Like, the Bulls took the lead on like 1 or 2 instances, but for the most part, the Heat controlled the entire game. They pull away to win 96-85. Carlos Boozer had the game of his life, doing all he could, 26 points, grabbed 17 boards, but D Rose was just struggling against that Miami Heat defense. Meanwhile, Chris Bosh balled out for the Heat. He scores 34. LeBron and Wade chip in 22 and 17. Now we got game 4, which was just a back and forth game the entire game. 14 ties, 14 lead changes. Deng and Boozer both dropped 20 on 50% shooting, but D Rose, I mean, he was just awful, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, 23 points doesn't sound awful, and then you take a look at the box score and you're like, oh, 8 of 27 shooting. That's less than ideal. I mean, he did have a couple of really nice dunks in this game. He had one on a fast break, and then he had really an iconic one, honestly, where he went straight past Udonis Haslem and then just packed it on Joel Anthony. But the game itself, he was not good at all. 8 of 27 shooting is awful, especially for a player who gets most of their shots around the rim. But down the stretch for the Heat, it was Mike Miller who was making plays and keeping them in the game. He scored 9 points in the fourth on 4 of 4 shooting, but the game was tied at 85 at the very end of the game. Derrick Rose, he had a chance to win it all at the buzzer, but he tossed up an air ball, so we go to OT. And once again, in overtime, the big 3 dominates for Miami. They score all 16 of the Heat's points in OT. They hold the Bulls to 8 points on only 2 of 8 shooting. And just like game 2, the Heat down the stretch, making the big plays, closing out a game. And so we're off to game 5 in Chicago with the Heat leading the series 3-1. And the Bulls in this game, they came out swinging. They were not ready to go down. They had a 12-point lead with a little more than 3 minutes to go. Bear in mind, they're up 77-65 with 3 minutes left. That means the Miami Heat have scored 65 points in 45 minutes of basketball, which is fucking abysmal. So you're up 12 with 3 minutes to go. You've held this team to 65 points this far through the game. It would be kind of hard to fucking this one up, wouldn't it?
Oh, but they found a way.
This is like a Blazers level choke right here.
Yeah, just wait. Wade hits a pair of shots. LeBron then drains a three. So now the lead is down to 5, just like that. Rose responds with an impressive like spinning floater, but then Wade on the other end, not known as a 3-point shooter, but he didn't just get 3, he gets 4 because he hits this like and 1 3 over D Rose, hits the free throw as well. D Rose would miss a shot and then LeBron gets the ball. He gets a screen from UD. He hits a 3 and all of a sudden we're tied. A 14-2 run from Miami in 2 minutes. I mean, when this team wanted to and were able to flip the switch, there's not much you could do to stop them. The Chicago Bulls stacked defense, like the best defense in the league this season. It didn't matter. Wade and LeBron this year could just take over in a moment's notice.
I mean, they played so well against them for 45 minutes and it was undone in 2.
Exactly.
That's how lethal this team was. And on the next Bulls possession, D Rose, he gets double teamed, throws a bad pass that LeBron picks off. And on the next play, I mean, bless Ronnie Brewer's heart, he tried, but LeBron gets him leaning a little bit, gets a wide open jumper at the top of the key, swishes it, and just like that, 12-point lead with 3 minutes to go is gone, and the Heat have a 2-point lead. Derrick Rose, though, on the next possession, he does get fouled, goes to the line, has a chance to tie the game for the Bulls, but he misses one of the free throws. And on the next Heat possession, I mean, they almost threw the ball away. Credit to LeBron for getting the ball and securing it for the Heat. It eventually finds its way to Chris Bosh. He gets fouled, nails 2 free throws, so the Heat have a 3-point lead. Bulls have no timeouts. They got to bring it up, and the Heat give them absolutely nothing on this final possession. And eventually, Derrick Rose, he has to force up a tough 3 from the left wing that gets blocked by LeBron. Time runs out on Chicago. Miami wins 83-80 to advance to the NBA Finals. And once again, the Heat's biggest weakness in the regular season, and one of the biggest question marks we had for this team, was their ability to close. Who's going to close for this team? And once again, for the 3rd time this series, and probably like the 7th or 8th time in this playoff run, the Heat close out a game perfectly.
And it has to be mentioned to kind of give you the idea of how just inevitable this team felt. Like, I'm not going to say this is the most difficult path to the finals, but it was an easy one. Like, sure, that 76ers series, like they beat them in 5, probably should have swept them, but then you play that Celtics team. They had made the finals 2 of the past 3 years, had been one of the best teams in the league during that era and one of the better teams in the league, like throughout the past 10 years. Take them out in 5 just kind of easily, and then you take out the Bulls, 1st seed. They have the MVP, one of the best defenses in the NBA during like the early 2010s, take them out pretty easily in 5. So it kind of felt at this moment that the Miami Heat, with this big 3, with Dwyane Wade and LeBron playing like they were just unstoppable.
So on to the NBA Finals, the Heat are matched up with the Dallas Mavericks in a rematch of the 2006 NBA Finals. And there were still 5 players playing from the 2006 Finals in the 2011 Finals. 2 for the Mavs, 3 for the Heat though. It was Dirk and Jason Terry for the Mavs, Wade and Udonis Haslem obviously for the Heat, but also Eric Dampier, who played for the Mavs in 2006, but by 2011 was now playing with Miami. Didn't really make that much of a difference for this to be like a super impactful thing, but thought we'd mention it. A rematch of the 2006 Finals, but very, very different rosters. And to get to the finals, the Mavericks had maybe the most impressive playoff run in NBA history.
Yeah, I mean, you take off the Blazers in round 1. It's a fine Blazers team, whatever. That was actually kind of a tough series for them. But then you sweep the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers, send Phil Jackson packing, and they didn't just sweep them. Like, this was a beatdown. Like, remember game 4?
Oh, man.
Shot the lights out, shot 20 of 32 from 3, beat the Lakers by nearly 40.
And back in 2011, 23s in a game was unheard of.
JJ Barea was cooking their ass. I mean,
so much so that Andrew Bynum intentionally tried to injure him.
I mean, as a Lakers big time hater at the time, I did not like that Kobe era. I never liked Kobe, to be honest. I was loving it. Even though the Mavericks had just knocked us out, I was loving it.
Yeah, they go on to beat that young upstart Oklahoma City Thunder team in the conference finals to advance back to the NBA Finals. Even with that impressive run by the Mavericks, Miami were still big favorites in this series. Not really overwhelming favorites, though, like you might think. I think in hindsight, it's easy to look back at the series and be like, oh, Miami were the overwhelming favorites. It's not actually true. There was a fair amount of people who were picking Dallas to win this series, probably because they had such an impressive playoff run. I mean, the Heat's playoff playoff run was impressive in and of itself. They beat the Celtics, they beat the Bulls, but there were some people who were back in Dallas in this series. And so game one, first quarter was a little rough. Both teams shot 28.6% in the first quarter. By halftime, it had picked up a little bit. Mavericks had a 1-point lead. At halftime though, LeBron, Wade, Bosh, and Mario Chalmers combined for 40 points. So if we have any mathematicians in the audience, 43 minus 40, that means the rest of the team gave you 3 whole points.
It's gotta be a typo. How is that possible? This team had no depth. It's so funny. Now on to the second half though. Early in the third quarter, the Mavericks, they stretched their lead a little. They got it up to 6 with 8 minutes left in the quarter. From there, the Mavericks went cold though, and Wade and LeBron, they started to cook. LeBron hit a big momentum buzzer beater to end the third. That put the Heat up 65-61 going to the fourth. The Mavs would keep it close a bit in the fourth, but down the stretch, the Heat just started to make huge play after huge play. After blocking Sean Mayer in the defensive end, Wade hit a tough 3 over Jason Kidd with 3 minutes left. Then on the next possession, LeBron blows past Sean Marion and throws down a dunk. And how about the call from Mike Breen?
Oh, this is one of my favorite calls from Mike Breen of all time. Like, LeBron just goes straight past him, punches the ball through the rim.
The only guy who finds him others maybe Rodman. James throws it down! Wow, and a foul!
I love this call from Mike Breen. An underrated call that you don't see brought up that often. And finally, with less than a minute left, the Heat cap off a game one victory with a classic Wade to LeBron alley-oop. Heat win 92-84. The big three combines for 65 points. Dallas put up a good fight. They would continue to do that in the rest of the series, but we'll get to that in a sec. Game two, first half of game two was pretty back and forth at the start. Wade and LeBron especially were putting on a dunk show in the first half. My personal favorite was after a Mike Bibby missed three, LeBron just comes flying through the lane, grabs the rebound with 2 hands, and then just punches the ball through the rim and does the classic like LeBron scream at the baseline after he does it. I love it. But it was the Mavericks who took the largest lead of the half. They went up 9 with 3 minutes to go. Heat though, a classic 9-0 Heat run to tie the game at 51 going into halftime. It is worth mentioning though that most of the Heat's comeback in the second quarter was due to free throws, but whatever. Game stayed close in the third quarter though, but the Heat started to pull away, and by the 7:14 mark of the fourth quarter, they had pushed their lead up to 15 points. And at this point, it really felt like, okay, the Heat got game one. Now they're up 15. And again, this is 2011. A 15-point lead with 7 minutes to go. That's a tough ask. Like, it felt like the Heat were really going to take a stranglehold on this series at this point.
I mean, to me, yeah, it felt like damn near the series was getting close to over. And I think if the Heat win this game, they probably win the series.
I think they definitely win the series.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But the Dallas Mavericks would proceed to have one of the greatest runs in an NBA Finals game of all time. They quickly erased the lead, going on a 17-2 run to tie the game at 90. And then after that, they get a stop. Next possession, Dirk gets a wide open 3 after Udonis Haslem got caught in a pick, got knocked down. So now Dallas has a 3-point lead, a 20-2 run. Luckily for the Heat, though, they got Mario Chalmers, who was weirdly clutch. I mean, he had that national championship game. He hit
I was going to say, you remember him at Kansas.
Yeah, he just gets wide open on this play. LeBron finds him, so now the game's tied, but then Dirk on the next possession just absolutely cooks Chris Bosh in isolation. I mean, the move he made to get around him, it just looks so fluid, so amazing. The fact that Dirk, his footwork, credit to him. So after that layup, the Mavericks take the lead with 3.6 seconds left. Heat are out of timeouts, so they just have to go the length of the court. And Dwyane Wade got a pretty good look. I mean, as good as you're gonna get, still a deep 3. Hits the backboard, then the rim, and then goes out. And the Mavericks completes, like I said, one of the greatest comebacks in an NBA Finals game in NBA history.
First team since 1992 to overcome a 15-point fourth quarter deficit in the NBA Finals. Especially considering it was on the road and who they were doing it against. Unbelievable performance. From the Heat side, Dwyane Wade was phenomenal in this game. 36 points on 65% shooting. Chris Bosh, kind of awful. 12 points on 4 of 16 shooting. Obviously gave up the game winner to Dirk. And LeBron on paper was okay. 20 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals, but 5 turnovers and 0 of 4 shooting in the fourth quarter, and lackluster fourth quarters, let's just say, would become a theme of this series for LeBron. But now game 3 in Dallas, tied at 1-1. Obviously, Dallas has all the momentum in the world. The Heat got off to a pretty strong start. They led by 7 after the first quarter, and they took a 14-point lead in the second quarter. Mavericks closed the gap in the third, though, and they even took the lead with 3:11 to go after a Jason Terry jump shot. But the Heat would respond with a 6-0 run by Mario Chalmers to retake the lead, and by the 7:19 mark of the fourth quarter, the lead's up to 7, thanks to another Mario Chalmers 3. But again, the Mavericks, they roar on back. They tie the game at 84, thanks to Dirk scoring 12 straight points. Wade and Dirk trade buckets on the next 2 possessions, so now we're tied at 86. Heat have the ball less than a minute to go. On this possession, Wade gets doubled at the 3-point line, so he dishes off to LeBron, who also gets doubled, so he dishes off to Bosh, who hits a nice little mid-range shot. Honestly, a really nice moment for Chris Bosh, because he had taken so many arrows throughout the entire year from people who were basically upset that he didn't replicate his numbers from Toronto.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
It's like, what the fuck did you want him to do?
Yeah, huge shot for him, though. I'm pretty sure he's from Dallas, or at least he's from Texas, so I'm sure that had to feel great for him. And a huge shot for the Heat as they try to go up 2-1 in this series. On the next possession, Dirk had an ISO against Udonis Haslem at the top of the key. He spins towards the middle of the court for just his classic Dirk fadeaway, but just a great IQ play by Wade. He sought that out, doubled him, so Dirk just kind of panicked and threw the ball away. LeBron would miss a long 2 on the next possession, though, so Dallas had one last chance, 4 seconds left. Dirk gets the ball, top of the key. The Heat don't send a double, surprisingly, so it's just Udonis Haslem on an island, and he did just enough. Dirk missed the shot. Shout out to Udonis Haslem for making the play there. The Heat win 88-86, take a 2-1 lead in the series. LeBron and Bosh were both kind of like so-so. LeBron had 17 and 9 assists, but just on 6 of 14 shooting and 4 turnovers. Bosh had 18 points on 7 of 18 shooting, but he had the huge shot at the end. That's about all you can ask. Wade, though, like these first 3 games for the Heat,
he was good.
Dude was carrying. He was the leader for the team. He had the finals experience, and he gives you 29 points, pulls down 11 rebounds, does it with 0 turnovers, all while playing 7 less minutes than LeBron.
Game 4, Mavericks shot well in the first quarter. They shot 50%, but they got killed 9-2 on the offensive glass. So even though they shot well in the first quarter, the game was tied at 21 going into the second, even though the Heat shot 7 of 24. Chris Bosh and Dwyane Wade led the way for the Heat in the second quarter. They scored 17 points on 8 of 9 shooting. LeBron, though, at this point, I mean, he had been struggling kind of all series, but he really struggled in game 4. The first half, he scored only 4 points on 1 of 4 shooting. Meanwhile, in the second quarter for the Mavericks, Deshaun Stevenson was on a heater. He scored 11 points, shot 3 of 4 from the field. Obviously, there's the beef between him and LeBron that goes way back. Even still, in the third quarter, thanks to, again, another brilliant quarter by Wade, he scored 12 points on 5 of 5 shooting. He led by 4 going into the fourth quarter, and after a 3 by Mike Miller and Udonis Haslem jumper, the Heat lead was up to 9 with 10 minutes to go. And it's looking at this point like, okay, the Mavericks got game 2. They got their one game in the series. They had their moment. They had that big comeback, but the better team is taking control of this series, and the Heat are going to win game 4, and hell, they may win game 5 in Dallas, but boy, the Heat melted down from that point on.
They did. I mean, there's so many moments in this series. I don't want to take anything away from Dallas because that run was incredible, but we're talking about from the Heat perspective. It almost feels like they didn't want to win.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Like, you had the series in game 2. Sure, you messed that up. You won game 3. You have the series here. Just finish it out. Maybe you can even end the series in game 5, but like you said, just choke. They again let Dallas go on a huge run. This time it's 14-4. They retake the lead with the 5-minute mark, and eventually with under a minute left, the Mavericks led by 2. Deshaun Stevenson had 2 wide open threes. After the second miss, LeBron chucks the ball all the way up to Wade. He gets fouled and he gets the line, and Dwyane Wade, you know, you just expect him to come through in these clutch moments. He makes the first, but then misses the second. Extremely uncharacteristic. Like, LeBron was choking hard this series. This was like the one major mistake from Wade.
And that, like you were saying, it felt like they didn't want to win. All you have to do is make a free throw.
Dirk gets a layup on the other end and extends the Dallas lead to 3. Wade then gets a quick dunk to cut the lead back to 1, but Jason Terry, he was clutch at the line, so the lead's back to 3. Then on the final possession for the Heat, Wade gets the ball, nearly loses it, has to make an athletic play to just dive in the backcourt to get the ball back. Mike Miller ends up getting the ball, has to just force up a difficult 3. That airballs. Dallas wins 86-83. Dirk and Jason Terry didn't really shoot great, but they still got the win. Wade goes for for 32 points. Bosh goes for 24, and LeBron, one of the worst games of his career, by far his worst playoff game of all time. And it doesn't even feel real like compared to the LeBron we know today.
Yeah, I mean, given the stage, I think it is the worst game of his career. 8 points, 4 turnovers on 3 of 11 shooting. Like, he did have 9 rebounds and 7 assists, but I mean, on the offensive end, and it's been said a million times, he just looked scared to shoot out there. He looked like he didn't want the ball. He looked like he wanted Dwyane Wade and Chris Bosh to be taking the big shots. I mean, that final possession, they go to Wade instead of going to LeBron. And like, if he plays even slightly better, if he scores 15 points instead of 8, the Heat win this game.
They do.
I think they win it, maybe even going away. But just another awful game from LeBron. It lets Dallas get back in the series. So game 5 in Dallas, still in Dallas because of the old 2-3-2 format. Both teams started out hot in this game. They both shot above 50% in the first quarter. Mario Chalmers actually capped the first with a ridiculous, like, one-handed half-court floater to give the Heat the lead. Wade, though, did leave the game in the first quarter with a hip injury, and he would return, but this was the first game in the series that he really didn't have a good game. Second quarter was also close. Dirk and Jason Terry led the way for Dallas, scoring 17 of the Mavs' 30 points. From the Heat side, though, the big three plus Mario Chalmers scored all 26 of the Heat's points in the second quarter, and the Heat go into halftime trailing by 3. At halftime, Mario Chalmers and Chris Bosh both had 13 points. Wade chipped in 11, and LeBron had more points in the first half than he did in all of game 4. He had 9 points.
It's not even like he balled out in the first half either. He just had 9 points.
He just had 9 points, and the Heat were like, you know what? You're doing great, Bronny.
Yeah, just keep it up, buddy. Third quarter, relatively pedestrian for both teams. Mavs outscore the Heat by 2, and they take a 5-point lead heading into the fourth. Wade and UD for the Heat, they were excellent in the fourth, but that was about it. They combined for 24 points, but LeBron again was a ghost, and Bosh didn't do much either. They were the only other Heat players to score, and they only scored 6 points. Even still, with the Mavericks taking a 7-point lead early in the quarter, the Heat battle back. They eventually take a 4-point lead thanks to a Wade 3. Jason Terry eventually ties the game with a 3 with a little over 3 minutes to play, and from there the Mavericks just started to pull away. Dirk got a dunk, Jason Kidd hit a 3 to push the lead to 5, and then under 40 seconds left, Jason Terry just hits a dagger 3 over LeBron to push the lead to 7. That sealed the game for Dallas, 112-103. Dallas takes a 3-2 lead, and I gotta mention, because Dirk gets praised so much for this series, Jason Terry, especially as we go on throughout NBA history, he'll get forgotten a bit. Dude was clutch. He was huge in these finals. He never made an all-star game. Kind of criminal. He should have just at least made one. I love Jason Terry. He's really just fun player to watch growing up, and he deserves so much credit for this series that he doesn't get enough.
I mean, yeah, he kind of gets forgotten because he was a sixth man.
Yeah, exactly.
For his entire career, but he was Dallas's second best player. They just brought him off the bench because they knew bringing him in against a second unit where he could just cook them, it was the best thing for the team. And again, just poor LeBron. Of course, he's the one that Terry hits the 3 over in the fourth quarter. Wade and Bosh in game 5 were both decent. 23 points and 19 points, both on 6 of 12 shooting respectively. LeBron again, though, I don't care that he was better than he was in game 4. He was still awful. He had only 17 points, 8 of 19 shooting. And again, this is the most damning stat from all of these games, is the fact that in the fourth quarter, he was god awful. 2 points on 1 of 4 shooting in the fourth. Like, he ran away from the basketball in fourth quarters. And going into game 6, obviously do or die game for Miami. Now, I was the big Heat fan at the time because I was the big LeBron fan. I was like one of the few kids in class who was like, yeah, let's go Heat. F Dallas, right? So I was rooting for Miami, but I very vividly remember going into this game and just having like an impending like sense of doom. I remember going into this game and just being like, it's over. They have no chance. I don't know why I felt like this. It was just one of those moments where you have like that feeling, and I was just like, they're done. They're fucked.
Which is very interesting because coming back home, just got to win 2 games. You're still got supposedly the best player in the world, and then one of the other best players in Dwyane Wade.
Yeah, they were not out of it by a long shot.
That's not even really a bad place to be in. And at least in game 6, LeBron actually started out well. He started out 4-4 from the field. Heat take an early 9-point lead. But after that early burst from Miami, Dallas took control of the game. They took a 23-22 lead. The Mavs extend that lead to 8, kind of in the final moments of the quarter. Early Early in the second, though, the Heat fell down 12 and kind of looked like the game was getting away from them at this point. Deshaun Stevenson, Jason Terry both hitting threes. They did respond kind of out of nowhere with a 14-0 run to retake the lead, find some hot shooting from Eddie House. After House gave the Heat the lead with the three, though, Deshaun Stevenson, UD, got into it at midcourt, and then Mario Chalmers had the bright idea to come flying in on Tyson Chandler. He's lucky this is the NBA. The refs are holding people back
And it's
because
not fucking UFC.
Tyson Chandler would punt his little ass. Like, I'm sorry. Mario Chalmers might even be taller than me, but I would not want to mess with Tyson Chandler. I don't care.
We're not even close to the size of Tyson Chandler. I respect for having the balls, I guess, to do it, but yeah, no, if Tyson Chandler wanted to, he would have folded your ass in half, Mario Chalmers.
Yeah.
Even after that 14-0 run, though, Jason Terry scored the final 10 points of the quarter for the Mavericks, and Dallas retook the lead at halftime. All of this despite the fact that Dirk had a god-awful first half. He had 3 points on 1 of 12 shooting, but Jason fucking Terry was killing it for Dallas. 19 points, 8 of 10 shooting. From the Heat side, no one was playing particularly poorly. The team shot 50% from the field, but they did give up 7 threes in the first half on 50% shooting from 3 for Dallas. And then the third quarter was all Mavericks. Dirk came alive, scored 8 points in the quarter. Mavs shot 52%, took a 9-point lead into the fourth thanks to a Jan Mahimi buzzer beater. That sentence, Jan Mahimi buzzer beater, doesn't sound like it should be real, but it happened, and not only did it happen in the NBA Finals. And then in the fourth, Dirk again was brilliant. 10 points in the fourth to keep Miami at bay. The Heat fell down by 12, and they never got closer than 7 down the stretch. And even though up to that point he had a really tough shooting night, Dirk was the one who was hitting clutch shot after clutch shot to keep Miami at bay, including that layup with 30 seconds left that basically put a bow on the series. Dallas wins 105-95. They win the series 4-2. Complete one of, if not the most impressive NBA championship run of all time. We got that iconic moment of Dirk leaving the court before the final buzzer.
Dude's like, I'm out.
Before the final buzzer even sounded, he just was so overcome with emotion. Big Three played well on paper. They combined for 57 points, but I mean, down the stretch, they could just never quite close the gap on Dallas. I mean, looking back on this season, a complete failure for Miami. There's no sugarcoating it.
No, they were championship or bust. It gets thrown around all the time. Oh, championship or bust. This is one of the rare examples where that is completely true. I mean, LeBron even said himself, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. Like, you got to start with 1. And if you're going to get all those, you can't be losing to the Dallas Mavericks. And obviously, this was especially problematic for LeBron James, who, even though I defend him, like, it's hard to defend this series. He looked scared. He was awful. Wade and Bosh kind of both held up their ends of the bargain. I mean, Bosh averaged 18.5, 7 rebounds. Pretty in line with his regular season averages. Wade, I would say, was pretty good. 26.5, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. LeBron was terrible. 17.8 points a game. 4 straight fourth quarters scoring 2 points or less. He was so terrible this series that for some, this disqualifies him from the GOAT conversation. And while I do think that's ridiculous, there is a part of me that at least understands that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a blight on his career that with everything he's done, all the championships he's won, the accolades he's achieved, the records he's set, he can't get past this one series. That's how bad he was. Like, had they just lost this series because, you know, Dirk and Jason Terry were on heaters, like if LeBron had put up his season averages, first of all, I don't even think that he could win this series. I think they definitively would have won this series if LeBron put up his season averages. But if LeBron played like he normally did and the Heat lost this series because the Mavericks were just killing it, it's like, okay, it's not a good look, but it's like, what can you do? He played so far below what he is capable of, and he was the reason his team lost this series. And also, I mean, of course, there's been the long-standing rumor that after Game 3, LeBron made a list like he was fucking Santa Claus of all the people he was gonna say "I told you so" to, and apparently Skip Bayless himself was at the very top of that list. Now, the source for this rumor is Skip himself, so you can take this rumor with like an entire salt mine's worth of salt. But I mean, overall, just a bad look for LeBron, especially like that post-game press conference where he basically told all the reporters to fuck off and go back to their miserable lives.
Yeah, that was too much. I mean, I understand he was probably just in the worst possible mental space, but he said all the people that was rooting on me to fail, at the end of the day, they got to wake up tomorrow, have the same life they had before they woke up today, same personal problems they had today. I'm going to continue to live the way I want to live. I mean, I kind of get it. I mean, people hating on LeBron, like he can be like, I got this money and everything, and I'm in the NBA. I'm sure it's a much better life than Phil in the office over there. But
that's true. I just got to say, though, LeBron is a lot of things. He's not a good villain.
No, and he also is insanely good with the media. Obviously, he's learned that over time, but very uncharacteristic for LeBron. I can't think of another moment throughout his career where he's really said anything like that or kind of been like outwardly hostile to the media.
Yeah, and with this season being such a colossal failure, it left the Heat with just a ton of questions for the upcoming season. I mean, there were people genuinely asking, like, do you break up the big three after 1 year? Like, who needs to go? Is it Bosh? Is it Wade? Like, who in the supporting cast needs to go? Do you need to change the coach? I mean, just when you fuck up this badly, basically nobody was safe going into next season.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, I completely agree. The questions were there and they had to be, but still crazy they lost the NBA Finals in 6, and there's just full-on panic across the entire organization. I mean, that's what it is. When you add LeBron, you add D-Wade, you add Chris Bosh, and you don't win the finals, it had to be expected.
If you ain't first, you're last.
That's a true point. True point.
So the 2011 offseason for the Heat started with the 2011 NBA draft. They landed Norris Cole out of Cleveland State, and they actually did draft Bojan Bogdanovic, but they traded him to Minnesota on draft night, so, you know, big fuck up there. But only 8 days later, the 2011 NBA lockout began. The lockout lasted for 161 days before an agreement was finally reached, but for a large portion of the lockout, it seemed like there wasn't really an end in sight. There was like genuine concern that the entire NBA season may be canceled. Owners were seeking a decrease in the players' share of basketball income, a harder salary cap, more strict luxury tax penalties, while of course, you know, the players wanted a softer cap because, you know, more money for them. And even during the lockout, when NBA players, you know, weren't even allowed to use team facilities for practices or anything, LeBron still managed to kick up a fuss. When on October 11th, he tweeted at John Clayton asking what the deadline was for an NFL team to sign a free agent. And this caused a bit of a stir with our old friend Stephen A. Smith, who just fucking lost it on LeBron. And like, I'm sure LeBron just tweeted this as like a bit of fun. You know, he's goofing off on his Twitter account. But at the same time, like, dude, you just came off like maybe the most embarrassing performance in NBA history. And there's a lockout. So, you know, people are losing their jobs. People are wondering, am I going to be able to work at all this year? And you're on Twitter joking about, oh, how funny would it be if I played tight end for the Cowboys? So like, I think this was kind of blown out of proportion by Stephen A. But I do get why people were like, Bron, read the room on this one. Come on.
Yeah, I see both sides. I remember this lockout, like it's the first one we experienced as fans, and I was like, damn, are we really not about to have hoops for an entire season? Personally, I didn't care about the tweet. I think even the Seahawks are like a team floated around as like a, not even potential because there was no reality to this, but just as like a hypothetical team. And I'm like, okay, you know, LeBron catching passes in that blue jersey, that blue and green, that could look good. But
going up against Cam Chancellor and Richard Sherman in practice.
I understand like people hate him, but at the same time, like, what's the dude supposed to be locked up in his bedroom, depressed about it, or like in the gym 24/7 working on his game the entire offseason? And to be fair, he was in the gym working on his game during that offseason. He famously trained with Hakeem during this offseason, you know, working on those post moves. And one of the main things that happened over this offseason is LeBron ditched that kind of villain mantra or whatever. Pretty smart by him. Like, it just wasn't him. Like, Kobe can play that role. Jordan can play that role. Now guys, like, I guess you could say Anthony Edwards is trying to carry on that mantle of that role.
Embiid.
But yeah, Embiid does it as well, but LeBron, that was not him.
It's not his personality. And he was trying to like shoehorn himself into a role that like he wasn't born to play. He loves to be loved. He loves to be friends with everyone. He's like an outgoing, you know, nice guy. He doesn't want to be hated like a Kobe or a Jordan would, you know, thrive off being hated in an opposing arena. But an agreement was finally reached on December 8th for the restart of the NBA season on Christmas Day. The Heat Heat had to work real fast in free agency, as everyone else did, but they managed to re-sign Mario Chalmers to a 3-year, $12 million deal, got Juwan Howard on the vet minimum, brought in James Jones on a 3-year contract, Eddie Curry on a 1-year contract, and most importantly, Shane Battier for 3 years, $9.4 million. They let Bibby, Dampier, Jamal McGlure, Big Z, and Eddie House walk. Big names, definitely, a couple former All-Stars in there, but none of them were really producing at a high level, especially deep into the playoffs.
Those dudes were washed up.
I was trying to be nice, okay?
Well, I'm not. They're former All-Stars, great players, some of them are, but they were pretty washed up. The Heat were originally supposed to open the season at Madison Square Garden, Wade and LeBron versus Melo and Amari. It would have been a very fun game, but obviously that didn't happen. The NBA didn't start till Christmas, and as we know historically, NBA's kind of gotten away from it recently for some reason. I hate it, but historically, the defending champ hosts the runner-up in a finals rematch on Christmas Day, and that's what we got. The Heat traveled into Dallas to face the Mavericks. Mavericks were raising their championship banner. For some reason, they didn't get their rings. That happened like a month later. Don't get why that didn't happen, but Mavericks were also repping the trophy logo on their jerseys, so the Heat were definitely reminded of what happened against them the year prior, and they just completely worked them. They led by 15 after the first, 21 at halftime, got it up to 32 after the third. LeBron and Wade dominated, but mainly LeBron. He goes off for 37 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. We just talked about the tweet. He was getting hate for that. First game back, big response.
Big motivation too. Opening night on Christmas Day, you got to stand there and watch as the Mavericks raise their banner. Obviously, the lockout wasn't a good thing because it, shaved off like 2 months of the season, but it provided an incredible moment we wouldn't have got otherwise, because the Mavericks would have just raised their banner on opening night like every other team would have. Yeah. Instead, fucking LeBron and Wade had to sit there and watch Dallas raise that banner, and they responded the way they should. After that game, the Heat started the season real well. They were 28-7 after 35 games, with a lot of late game heroics from Dwyane Wade throughout the season. Their third game of the season on the road in Charlotte, Wade hit a tough post jump shot over Gerald Henderson and then gave the Superman to Cam Newton, who was sitting at courtside. Very next game in Minnesota, Dwyane Wade scores off that inbounds alley-oop from LeBron, gives the Heat the win. On January 1st, they played a triple overtime game at Atlanta where neither Wade nor LeBron played, but Chris Bosh led the Heat to victory, including sending the game to overtime with that clutch 3. This is at the point where he really wasn't known as much of a three-point shooter, so at that point I was like, damn, Chris Bosh hitting a deep clutch 3 was insane. And then on January 29th, where the Heat finally beat the Bulls in the regular season, this is that game that LeBron jumped over John Lucas.
Yeah.
So, also in February, they matched up with the New York Knicks and rising superstar Jeremy Lin. He was just coming off the Linsanity run. Hell, he was only 2 weeks removed from dropping 38 against the Lakers, that buzzer beater against the Raptors. Like, all the hype in the world was around Lin coming into Miami, and he got fucking bodied by the Heat. He scored 8 points on 1 of 11 shooting and had 8 turnovers as the Heat beat the Knicks by 14. Pretty good start to the season for Miami.
And they had a big presence at All-Star Weekend. You had Norris Cole in the Rising Stars Challenge, you had James Jones and Mario Chalmers in the three-point contest, and then you had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh all in the All-Star game again, with LeBron and Wade starting. And this All-Star game is a little bit famous for its ending. The West were leading big. They were up 20 with only 8 minutes left, but then LeBron led a furious comeback for the East. He hit a pair of tough threes to keep the East alive, and then on the last possession, the East have the ball down 2. First, for some reason, Darren Williams, of all players, gets a shot. Kind of missed it a little bit badly, but the East get the rebound. They kick it out to LeBron. He's dribbling up against Kobe, a moment to score and get a game winner, but then he kicks it over to Wade. The pass gets stolen by Blake Griffin, and of course, because LeBron, he gets criticized. I guess he should have took the shot. It would have been a nice moment, but it's an All-Star game. Who the fuck cares? But I remember, First Take, cable TV, all over LeBron about this.
Well, I almost think like the fact that it's an All-Star game almost makes it a little bit worse, because you're right, it's an All-Star game. Who the fuck cares if you miss and lose? Like, it's an All-Star game. Like, why not try to go at Kobe at the very end? Again, I see both sides, but as a Bron fan at the time, I was just like, man, Bron, like, everyone was talking about how you're not clutch from the season prior, and you have a big opportunity in the All-Star game to make a clutch play. And again, if you lose, fuck fuck all happens? I don't know. It was a missed opportunity. That's all I'll say. Their first game after the All-Star break, though, was in Portland, a game that I went to with my dad. I'm only mentioning because this game has one of my favorite Wade to LeBron alley-oops I've ever seen. Wade steals the ball off a bad pass by the Blazers. He's out at like the 3-point line. He just like chucks it over his shoulder, and LeBron just comes flying down the lane, catches it with his right hand, and just thumps it through the hoop. Woo, I remember sitting there as like a kid. I was 14 at the time, and I was just like, damn.
And there were some other late season highlights as well. You had Wade's game winner against the Pacers on March 10th. You had April 16, where LeBron scored 17 straight fourth quarter points to lead a fourth quarter comeback against the Nets. And the Heat finished the season 46-20. Of course, lockout shortened season. So 46-20, 69% winning percentage, actually a little bit less than last year, which was 70. Again, they miss out on the top seed in the Eastern Conference. That goes to the Bulls, who had a very impressive 50-16 record. LeBron, though, wins MVP. I mean, the dude was crazy this year. Like, you look at the numbers, he was out of this world. And the Heat match up with the New York Knicks in the first round, the 7th seed. So a very intriguing first round matchup, I'd say.
Yeah, going into the first round against New York, I mean, this series had a ton of hype going into it. Of course, you know, it's New York, it's Miami. It's one of, I would say, the better rivalries in the NBA. It was the first time that Melo and LeBron were going to play against each other in the playoffs. Obviously, you know, they came into the league together. They played once in high school. To see them actually go at each other in an NBA playoff series was going to be awesome. The two teams were definitely on different levels, though. The Heat got the 2nd seed for the 2nd straight year, and the Knicks were really still trying to figure out how to make Melo and Amari work. I mean, this season, I think, had actually been pretty disappointing for New York. It was the first full season with Melo and Amari together, and you only get the 7th seed. So game 1, it was a Heat rout from the very beginning. The Heat led by 23 at halftime and as much as 37 in the game. They held the Knicks to only 35.7% shooting. Melo and Amari combined for only 20 points on 5 of 22 shooting. Meanwhile, LeBron goes for 32, and the Heat win 100-67. Woo! Ouch. 67 points in an NBA game in 2012. I know this wasn't quite the point where we had had a scoring boom in the NBA, but 67 points in 2012 is bad.
Okay, we do gotta bring up that crazy flop though LeBron had on Tyson Chandler. Tyson Chandler is setting the screen. LeBron doesn't really see it, and he does get fouled. Like, Tyson Chandler kind of, gets him with the arms, but
he acts like he gets sniped in his spine.
And there's an angle in the replay where he's falling down immediately where he gets fouled, and then he starts waving his arms in there. It's like, okay.
And he's got that look on his face.
Right.
That I'm in so much pain.
Holding his neck after. I don't know, maybe it hurt. Tyson Chandler's a big ass dude. It was a foul, but crazy flop.
But Bron, you're in your mid-20s. You're not 84. Come on.
Game 2 was a far more competitive game. The Heat still had control for most of it, but the Knicks would take, a few leads throughout, but by the mid-second quarter on, the Heat never trailed. The Knicks never let it get out of hand, but they still lost 104-94. And this was all despite a pretty good offensive night. I mean, Melo gives you 30 on pretty good shooting. Knicks shot 49%. They have 5 players score double figures, but the Heat have 6 players go for double figures, and the big 3 combined for 65. So Knicks keep it close, but the Heat were still the better team the whole night.
Yeah, and this game is very infamous for what happened after it, because Amari Stoudemire, in a fit of anger, punched the glass casing of a fire extinguisher, and he suffered lacerations to his hand that required stitches. And needless to say, this is a wildly stupid thing to do, and I will never understand why guys, when they get pissed, will just punch hard shit. I do not understand it. If you're gonna punch something, punch a couch, punch a ball. Don't punch glass. Do you know what glass is? Do you know how sharp it is? You could really fuck your hand up by punching glass. I mean, maybe it's not quite as bad as if you just punch concrete. Then again, it might be worse. I will never wrap my head around why guys do this.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up the same thing. I get throwing the controller when you're raging at a video game.
Right.
Sometimes you gotta just launch the controller at the wall or something.
But don't punch your monitor.
Yeah. Game 3, the Heat would start out strong. They led 17-8 in the first quarter. But from then on, the first half was mostly all New York. They immediately respond with a 20-3 run, led by as many as 11 in the second quarter. From that point, though, the game was all Miami, and the Knicks offense really just stalled out completely. The Heat outscored the Knicks 51-30 in the second half, and they won going away 87-70. Again, great defense when the Heat just shutting them down. Carmelo scored 14 of the Knicks 30 in the second half. Even then, though, his scoring wasn't efficient whatsoever. He shot 3 of 11 in the second half, and the Knicks only shot as a team 24% in the second half. Again, credit to the Heat. They just shut them down some of these games. Mavericks.
Yeah, Knicks definitely could have used Amari in this game, though.
Yeah.
Had to miss this one because of his hand, but I have no sympathy for him. If you're stupid enough to punch glass and get yourself scratched from a playoff game because of it, like, you get what you fucking deserve.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Game 4, though, Amari was back for the Knicks, back in the starting lineup, too. Obvious, win or stay home game for the Knicks, but you wouldn't know it by the way they started this game because they immediately went down 8-1, but they found their footing eventually. And you know what? This is actually a really competitive game. 11 ties, 12 lead changes. Heat led from the early second quarter to like the mid third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, it was real back and forth. The Knicks did lose Baron Davis in the fourth quarter, though, to, get this, a torn patellar tendon,
Damn.
ACL,
Ow.
and MCL.
Yikes.
That's the trifecta right there. And they had already lost Jeremy Lin to a season-ending injury, so at this point, they were down to Mike Bibby. And honestly, Bibby, lest we forget, the former Miami Heat player, was fucking huge, because with a little less than 90 seconds left, game tied at 81, he nails a huge three to give the Knicks the lead.
Yeah, dude had his revenge moment, but LeBron immediately 7 seconds later responds with his own three to tie the game, but another three this time from Carmelo gives the Knicks back the lead. Eventually the Heat have the ball down 2, chance to win the game. Wade attacks at first, but then he has to like dribble back out. Gets honestly a decent look at a three, but just misses it short. Knicks win their only game of the series. They survive to force a game 5.
Spoilers.
I mean, we kind of knew.
Yeah, game 5, Knicks started well in the first quarter. Carmelo and Bibby were hitting early from New York, but from that point on, all Miami basically. Carmelo did drop 35 for the Knicks, but outside of him, really no one stepped up and provided, that big second offensive performance that they needed. They still had 4 players in double figures, but their second leading scorer was Amari, who only had 14. Meanwhile, the Heat get 29 from LeBron, 19 apiece from Wade and Bosh. They did shoot 34 free throws to the Knicks 21, so, any conspiracy theorists out there, there's your one little nugget for this game. But in this game, the Knicks were undone by their poor three-point shooting. They only shot 4 of 13 on the game compared to Miami's 9 of 19. Miami had 11-point lead at halftime, and by the third, it was up to 18, and they win the game by 12, eliminating the Knicks in 5 games. So round 2, the Heat matched up with the upstart Indiana Pacers led by Danny Granger, and they also had, Roy Hibbert, David West, Darren Collison, George Hill, and a very young Paul George. Pacers had beaten the Magic in the first round, although they were missing Dwight Howard. I don't think anyone was really expecting much from this series, and in game 1, LeBron receives his 3rd MVP award. Indiana proved right away, though, that this was gonna be a series. They jumped out to a 13-4 lead. Pacers defense held Miami to only 42 points in the first half on like 36.5% shooting, and they did all this despite Danny Granger tossing up a donut in the first half.
Yeah, and things got even worse for Miami because Chris Bosh, he goes down with that lower abdominal strain, kept him out the rest of the series. He tried to play through it, but dude, it was hurting him, looked painful as hell. The Heat eventually respond with a strong second half. Wade and LeBron, they outscore the Pacers in the second half all by themselves, and they win 95-86, but losing Bosh, that was huge because as we've talked about, this team had no depth, so now you basically have Wade and LeBron, not much else, and like front court now you got like Ronnie Turioff, Joel Anthony, not looking too good.
Especially going against David West and Roy Hibbert, that stout Indiana front line.
Psycho T. Had to throw it out there.
Of course. Game 2 was a defensive war. Indiana shot only 37.8%. Miami was even worse, 34.6%, and a dismal 1 of 16 shooting from 3. For the Heat, basically only LeBron and Wade played well. LeBron went for 28, 9, and 6, while Wade had 24 points and 6 boards. Neither shot really well, though, both under 50%, and no one else on Miami scored more than 5 points. Heat led by 9 still, though, late in the second quarter, only for the Pacers to erase that deficit in under 90 seconds and tie the game at 33. Heat built the lead back up to 5 early in the third, but the Pacers respond with a 20-4 run, took an 11-point lead. Heat came back and even briefly took the lead with 4 minutes to go, but they'd go scoreless for the final 2:41 of the game. LeBron and Wade blow several chances down the stretch. LeBron especially missed 2 free throws down the stretch. One of them could have tied the game at the very least, and if he had hit both of them, it would have given Miami the lead, but Pacers lead by 3 at the very end. Mario Chalmers gets a decent look at a 3, but misses it. Pacers pull off a massive shocker to take game 2 in Miami. Fun fact, this was the Heat's first playoff loss to an Eastern Conference opponent, and this just broke like 13-year-old me's heart. I remember I was so distraught about it, like I made a Facebook post about it, back in the day when all like the high schoolers were on Facebook. I literally posted like a screen cap from the old NBA app of this score. I think the caption was just like, no!
Oh my God, that is fucking amazing.
Hey bro, I was the big LeBron simp at the time.
Yeah?
I was like, this is bad. This is not good.
Game 3 over in Indiana. This was a game of runs. Pacers, hot start, 11-2 run, but the Heat closed the quarter on a 24-6 run, take a 9-point lead going to the second. Pacers then outscore Miami by 9 in the second, So we're all tied up 43 at halftime. Second half though, all Indiana. They outscored Miami by 14 in the third quarter, eventually pull away to win 94-75. Mario Chalmers, like he did all he could, led Miami in scoring with 25 points. LeBron had 22, but D-Wade was just awful. 5 points on 2 of 13 shooting. Meanwhile, Indiana, you get a very balanced scoring attack. 4 of your 5 starters give you 14 plus. And fun fact, this game was like actually the start of the LeBron Lance Stevenson beef. Late in the third, LeBron missed a free throw. Lance over on the bench hit him with the choke emote, like the whole Reggie Miller, you all know it. Quite the thing to do, because at this point, Lance had not played a single minute in the series. And Danny Granger actually said that some of the Miami vets came to the Pacers locker room looking for Lance after the game, like the whole, you know, Chris Paul Rockets, like Clippers moment there.
I think he said it was like Dexter Pittman, Juwan Howard, and I think Birdman, which is funny because Birdman wasn't even on the team at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I think people agree, like, yeah, some Miami players came looking for Lance. It is hilarious though, because I think Lance had played like less than 10 total minutes in the playoffs. Like he had got some garbage time minutes against Orlando, but yeah, hadn't played a minute in this series against Miami, and he's doing that on the bench, which is like, okay, you know, taunt the goat at your own risk, right? Yeah. Game 4, probably a must-win for Miami, and the Heat actually start off fucking terribly. They go down 9-0 immediately, trailed by 7 after the first. From that point though, it was the Wade and LeBron show. LeBron had 19 in the first half to keep the Heat in the game, and Wade and LeBron combined for 28 of the Heat's 33rd quarter points to take control of the game. In fact, at one point, LeBron and Wade scored 38 straight points between the two, starting late in the second quarter. And despite falling behind by 10 in the third, the Pacers battled back, got it within 3 a few times in the fourth, but Wade, LeBron, and interestingly enough, Udonis Haslem hit some clutch shots down the stretch. Heat hold off the Pacers, even the series at 2-2. Wade goes for 30 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, while LeBron was even better. 40 points, 18 boards, and 9 assists, both on above 50% shooting. Lance probably feeling like a dumbass on the bench for after this game.
Yeah, this was just one of those fun games where you watch and Wade and LeBron are just dominating, both in their primes. Like athleticism is there. Wade not quite as athletic as his like peak prime, but still like them two is a two-man show. Incredible television. Game 5, Miami just dominates. Indiana never led the entire game. They stayed within striking distance until the third quarter, but then Miami pulls away with a 20-plus point lead, eventually win by 32. Indiana's top scorer was a young guy by the name of Paul George. He gave you 11 points.
That's your top scorer.
Yeah, you're not going to win there. LeBron and Wade poured in 30 and 28 apiece. They also got a strong contribution. Shane Battier, 13 points, 4 threes. Miami wins 115-83 in a much-needed dominant performance. Also, it needs to be said at this point in the series, things were getting chippy as f***, which like sometimes that happens in the playoffs, but for this series, even more so than your usual playoff series.
Yeah, game 6 back in Indiana. Like a lot of games in this series, actually the Pacers get out to a really great start. They go up 13-3. They're up 7 after the first. Miami battled back in the second though, thanks to a 20-point quarter from Wade. Pacers did all they could, but offensively they just couldn't keep up with Miami, who pulls away in the second half, again thanks to Wade and LeBron, who combined for 32 in the second half. Heat win by 12, 105-93. They win the series. LeBron goes for 28, 6 and 7, but the star of this game was D-Wade. Easily his best playoff performance of the Big 3 era. 41 points, 10 boards, 68% shooting. Probably the best playoff performance we'd see from him for the rest of his career at this point, I'd say. And the big thing I just remember from after this game, of course, you know, First Take's talking about it and Skip's going off about like last night Dwyane Wade showed who Batman is. Because this is the whole thing back with like Stephen A. and Skip was always like, Wade's Batman, LeBron's Robin. Right?
Right.
So they were just Skip had his moment after this game. You know, Wade closes out in 6 and he's like, Batman showed the world like who he actually is, which not really how the rest of the playoffs went, but great performance by Wade.
Yeah, incredible performance nonetheless. And really, I mean, this was a scare, especially without Bosh, but the main thing was this was like a little bit of a preview of the future series we'd see between these teams. Eastern Conference Finals versus the Celtics. Of course, like we said earlier, a ton of history between these teams. teams, these players, goes back to LeBron in Cleveland. We've already mentioned that before. The talent and the experience on the Celtics roster alone, you couldn't count them out, but I feel like the Heat were pretty confident going into this series, like just beat them down the previous year. Celtics, like although they had made the conference finals, they had their vets, like they had a shot here. They were coming off a series where they beat the ace-seeded 76ers in 7 games. Like this was still a very good Celtics team, but it was clearly a Celtics team past their prime. Game 1, Miami still doesn't have Bosh, but they were just dominant on defense to start this game, led by 10 after the first, and the Celtics only had 11 points in the first quarter on 5 of 20 shooting. Boston, though, they got their offense in gear. They scored 35 in the second, tied the game at 46 at halftime. Second half, though, it's all Miami. LeBron and Wade combined for 31 in the second half, nearly as much as the Celtics scored in the second half. Celtics had 33, Wade and Braun had 31, like I mentioned, and they pull away to win 93-79. LeBron goes for 32 and 13. Meanwhile, Wade gives you 22 and 7 to lead Miami to a 1-0 lead in the series.
Yeah, game 2, much tougher for Miami. The Celtics controlled the game for basically the entire first half, leading by as much as 15 on multiple occasions. LeBron was decent in the first half, but Wade was terrible, only 2 points. Mario Chalmers, though, chips in 14 in the first half to keep Miami in it. And for Boston, it was fucking Rajon Rondo who was going off. 22 first half points to go with 7 boards and 4 assists to lead the Celtics. Third quarter, all Miami. Wade finally wakes up out of the coma he was in, scores 12 in the quarter. He'd outscore Boston by 13 to take a 6-point lead going into the fourth. Boston battles back in the fourth, though, even takes a 5-point lead with only a couple minutes to go, but Miami retakes the lead, is leading by 2 when Wade draws a shooting foul on Paul Pierce, his 6th of the night, so he's got to sit down. Wade hits 1 free throw with 47 seconds to go, so the Heat lead by 3, but Ray Allen gets a wide open 3. The one guy you can't leave open for a 3 gets wide open. He nails it, ties the game at 99. On the next Heat possession, LeBron slips a screen for Wade, gets a look at a pretty tough layup, misses it, but gets his own rebound, so the Heat reset. Shot clock is off this time. LeBron runs the clock down with Rondo on him, settles for a long 2, which he misses, so we go to OT. I just think it is kind of funny that Jeff Van Gundy says after this, that's as good a look as you're gonna get in the last second of a game, which Rondo's a good defender, but this is, 6'8", prime, like beast mode LeBron against Rajon Rondo, and a long 2 is apparently the best look you can get.
I mean, given the circumstances, it's kind of the exact opposite.
It is.
Fading mid-range shot against Rajon Rondo. I get KG's in the paint. Maybe you don't want to challenge him, but come on, Braun. We need better from that.
Yeah.
In OT, though, the Heat goes scoreless for almost the first minute and a half before Wade throws down a nasty and 1 dunk. He does miss the free throw, though. Rondo responds with a step-back 3 to give the Celtics the lead. Miami responds, though, and thanks to some clutch baskets from UD and Wade, they have a 7-point lead, 18 seconds left. Surely it's over. And then Rondo just is like, let me turn into Steph real quick. Buries a 3, which he was basically unguarded for. Then after 2 free throws from LeBron, Heat are back up 6. Rondo buries another deep 3 to cut the lead back down to 3. Wade then gives the Heat fans a big scare, misses the first free throw, but he hits the second. Heat seal the win there. LeBron goes for 34. Wade drops 23, but the story of the game, it's Rondo.
Yeah.
44 points, by far his career high. The next highest is 35. Yeah. 8 rebounds, 10 assists, 3 steals, plays all 53 minutes, shoots 66.7% from the field, scored all 12 of the Celtics points in overtime. And I remember after this, people were thinking or people were saying at least, does Rondo got a jumper now too?
No.
Can he hit that? No, but just an incredible performance. And honestly, with the way Rondo plays, I've never seen something quite like this. Maybe I'm overselling it, but
nah, this is
it was special.
This is like when Andre Miller scored 52. Right. It's one of those performances, like an insane scoring performances from a non-scorer that comes out of nowhere. Because Rondo this season probably averaged 11 points per game?
I think maybe a bit more, but
maybe 12. I don't know if he ever averaged more than 13 points in a season though. And he comes out and gives you 44, 8, 10, 3 steals. He didn't sit a single second in this game.
I miss Rondo so much. This is about the Heat, but oh my, just watching
Prime
the plays
Rondo
in this game, he's so fun to watch.
Game 3, down 0-2, obvious must win for the Celtics. Celtics, and boy, they sure played like it. First quarter was back and forth for a bit, but after that, Boston took control and didn't really look back. LeBron drops 34, 8 boards, 5 assists, but he only gets 18 from Wade, 14 from Chalmers, not much from anyone else. Celtics, meanwhile, get balanced scoring from Rondo, Pierce, and Garnett, all going for 20 plus, and by the end of the third quarter, Celtics lead by 22. Miami made it a bit more respectable in the fourth, but even still, they go down 101-91. Then in game 4, again, Boston jumps out to a huge lead, this time basically from opening tip. They led 21-6 just after the halfway point of the first quarter and would lead 61-47 at halftime. Miami fights back in the second half, mostly behind suffocating defense. They held the Celtics to only 28 second half points. Heat even briefly took the lead in the fourth thanks to some UD free throws. Celtics, though, retake the lead and lead by 3 with 52 seconds to go. When on the next Miami possession, LeBron nails a wide open 3 from the right wing, ties the game at 89, and the next Celtics possession kind of ends weird. Like, it actually ends in a turnover thanks to an offensive foul drawn by LeBron on KG away from the ball.
I mean, yeah, I think it was a foul though. KG kind of shoves him. They were both going at it. Final possession though, LeBron gets the ball. He tries to drive, but then gets triple teamed. He throws it over to UD, who tosses up an air ball. Honestly, just a horrible. I don't know what LeBron could have done, but like
I think he had maybe Chalmers open on the right wing.
But there's someone else.
Problem is he's not looking that way like when he leaves his feet. So he's just got to like chuck it over to UD. And to people saying shoot it, he's fucking triple teamed.
Regardless, awful end to the game for the Heat. But we're going to overtime and OT. It was just a slog. Like Boston shoots 1 of 6, Miami shoots 1 of 8, but the big moment in overtime, 1:51 left. LeBron's called for his 6th personal foul. He's trying to establish position on Mikel Petrus, fouling out in the playoffs for the first time in his career at that point. I know I'm a LeBron glazer, but even watching this recently, it seemed pretty damn soft, but well, whatever. I mean,
I kind of disagree, honestly.
I don't know. It didn't seem like there was much there on the replay, in my opinion. Without LeBron, though, the Heat go to Wade on the final play. He gets a decent look. Honestly, like, if Wade was a better three-point shooter, he probably knocks this down. Mismatch on Marquise Daniels, gets him in the air. It's a clean look. He's moving a bit, but just misses it. And we got a tie series at 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2 going back to Miami. Heat finally got Chris Bosh back, although he does come off the bench. This time, Miami gets off to the quick start. They led by 13 early in the second quarter, and the Heat basically held that lead until the last 4 minutes of the third when the Celtics went on an 11-0 run to turn a 6-point deficit into a 5-point lead. Miami, though, they take the lead back in the fourth thanks to a LeBron 3, and they eventually push it up to 6, but the Celtics, they'd battle back, including one of the most insane sequences I've ever seen. Like, Brandon Bass gets a great look at a dunk off like a little slip screen, and Wade just comes from out of nowhere on the weak side with an insane block, only for Rondo to like tap past the ball off the block to Michael Petrus in the corner for 3, who nails it. Like, it goes from a massive momentum play for Miami, whole crowd just jumps up because, oh my God, Wade made this insane block, to a Celtics 3 in seconds.
I mean, again, Rondo is special. Like, him and Braun are both going for the ball.
Yeah.
He gets it, taps it out, leads to a 3. Just special stuff from Rondo. And then we had the Paul Pierce 3. LeBron backs off him a little bit too much for truth, and he hits that big 3 in his face. That pushes the lead up to 4. Celtics hit their free throws down the stretch, and they go on to win 94-90. Pierce honestly didn't have a great game. Like, he had 19 points on 19 shots, but he hit the shot when it mattered most. That's all that matters. Braun goes for 30. Wade gives you 27, but they basically get nothing from everyone else. Boston, meanwhile, they have 5 players in double figures, and we're now headed back to Boston with the Celtics leading 3-2 to kind of set the stage. Like, this is a Miami team that just flamed out in the finals the year prior. They should be making the finals. They should be winning it, and now they're down 3-2, 1 game away from elimination, headed back to Boston.
Yeah, in game 6 in Boston, I mean, we already have a video on this game, so go check that out if you want. I mean, I think it's fair to say that basically nobody thought Miami was going to win this game. I think they were still the betting favorite, but if I remember correctly, like, all the pundits and the overwhelming majority of the NBA community was like, Boston's off to the finals. And honestly, like we said in the previous video, that there's never been more pressure on one team. I'm honestly not sure if the pressure was actually at an all-time high or like an all-time low. Because like if they had lost this game, the big 3 almost certainly would have been broken up. But also, like, no one expected them to win. So like, were they really under a ton of pressure, or, you know, were they able to go out there and, you know, play loose and play relaxed? I will say though, one of the most interesting hypotheticals I saw was from Stephen A. Smith saying that if the Heat lost that game, they should ring up the Lakers and see if they would swap Wade and Bosh for Kobe and Powell. I mean, it's a fun hypothetical to think about because it's probably not too out of the realm of possibility. I know most people would be like, the Lakers would never dare trade Kobe, but people forget, like, Kobe Kobe and Jim Buss at this time didn't have a great relationship. Like Jim Buss was more so banking on Andrew Bynum as the, Lakers' future. So, if you could, get back Wade, I mean, there was some concerns about his health at this point. Maybe the Lakers could be like, well, it's one down year. Maybe we could get him right. We can keep Bynum. We can also get Bosh. I don't think they would have done it because Lakers trading Kobe just, it sounds unthinkable, but LeBron and Kobe in Miami together, that would have been something.
That would have been so weird, but also very interesting. That's a good, hypothetical. I mean, for me personally, I feel like the Heat as a whole, maybe they didn't have a ton of pressure. Like if I'm Mike Miller going to this game, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to shoot out. Doesn't matter. Maybe my summer starts early. Maybe it doesn't. LeBron himself, I think, had all the pressure in the world because microscope was already on after the finals last year. Like I mentioned, if he loses this game, the GOAT debate's over. He's not even thinking about the GOAT debate. Like it wasn't really a GOAT debate at the time, but like all the blame is going on him. If he loses this game, personally, I think he had all the pressure, and that's why I think this was LeBron's greatest performance ever. I mean, we all know how it basically goes down. Like from the opening tip before the game even started, dude's locked in.
The look.
Yeah, the look will be remembered forever. And then the game itself, like he's dunking on people, just locked in the entire time. Him in the mid-range was just deadly. The fast break, everything. It was just incredible. 30 points in the first half, only missing 2 shots. And in the second half, like every point when the Celtics had any glimmer of hope to get back in the game, he responded. 45 points, 15 boards, 5 assists as the Heat dominate 98-79. Only player in NBA history with a stat line like that is Wilt. And whenever you say that, you're basically the only one to do it because Wilt's done everything.
Yeah, Wilt, I mean, yeah. Wilt doesn't seem real when you look back on like the stats he was putting up.
Right.
So if you're ever mentioned in the same conversation as him, you're doing something right.
Right.
Game 7 back in Miami, a very back and forth game. The Celtics actually led for almost double the amount of time Miami did, but we had 10 ties and a ridiculous 20 lead changes in this game. Boston led by as much as 8 in the third quarter, but Miami responded with an 8-0 run to tie the game, and the rest of the third was pretty back and forth until we went into the fourth quarter tied at 73, and the fourth quarter was all about the big three. Chris Bosh, after 2 lackluster games coming off the bench, finally had a solid outing, scoring 19 points for the game, 8 in the fourth quarter, including 2 3-pointers. Keep in mind, this was in 2012. This was before he started shooting a lot more threes later in his Miami tenure. LeBron and Wade also went for 11 and 9 in the fourth, respectively. Boston kept pace, but a massive deep 3 from LeBron with just under 6 minutes to play had Boston down 7 and reeling. From there, they just went ice cold. They only scored 2 points in the final 5 minutes of the game. Wade and LeBron helped Miami pull away with clutch bucket after clutch bucket. Miami wins Game 7, 101-88, in a game that was much closer than the final score would indicate. Boston hung around, and their starting lineup was amazing, with every player scoring 14 or more, especially Rondo. Again, fucking Rondo. Just 22 points, 10 boards, 14 assists, but you get a whopping 2 points from your bench, and you go cold at the wrong time. Of course, this would be the final game for Pierce, Allen, and Garnett as a trio, and as you're watching the Celtics at the very end of this game, you can kind of tell that they know, like they're taking a little bit extra time, hugging each other, coming off the floor. Doc Rivers obviously looks very emotional on the sideline as Pierce, Allen, and Garnett are subbing out. And of course, Rondo and Garnett got to leave the court before the game's over, not shake hands with Miami, right? Fuck them.
Yeah, at the very least, I don't know if they knew Ray Allen would do what he's gonna do here shortly that we'll mention, but they definitely knew this was like their last hurrah. This was their last chance at competing for a title, and it just didn't happen. The big three combines for 73. They got some contributions from Battier, Haslam, and Chalmers, and Miami's back to the NBA Finals, like comes basically at the brink of death. Like they pushed it as far as they possibly could, but now we got a matchup with the OKC Thunder in the finals, and it's a pretty interesting matchup. Like apparently this is what everyone kind of predicted. The NBA GM survey they do every year, 96.3% of GMs predicted Miami to win the East. Kind of makes sense. 67.9% predicted OKC to win the West. Kind of surprised hearing that in hindsight, but the Thunder were coming off that conference finals appearance. They're this young up and coming team. The most shocking thing here, got to get the mention in, as always, Blazers were tied for 3rd in the West. Like what?
With San Antonio. Second was the Lakers. I guess we were coming off like the first round loss to Dallas. We had cut Brandon Roy. We brought in Raymond Felton, I guess, though. And they're like,
Crawford, baby.
Oh yeah, Jamal
that
Crawford
was
too.
Be it.
Yeah. And of course we missed the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it was going to be a fun matchup because LeBron was considered the best player in the world, and Durant was arguably considered second best. Kobe maybe still at this time was considered the second best player in the world, but even if people didn't have Durant as second best, they were going to by the end of this playoff run with how he was playing and how far he got Oklahoma City. And while Miami had survived a tough playoff run of, you know, the Knicks and Indiana and Boston, Thunder had been through a tough run themselves. They swept the defending champion Mavericks in the first round, bounced Kobe and the Lakers in round 2 in 5 games, and then won 4 straight games to eliminate the top-seeded Spurs in the conference finals. And I couldn't find like the ESPN expert predictions that they did back in the day, but I did find CBS's where 5 out of 6 experts picked OKC to win this series. And if memory serves, I feel like most experts were leaning OKC. It wasn't overwhelming by any means, but it was probably like, you know, 70-30, 65-35 leaning towards OKC.
I 100% believe you, but if you would have asked me before looking into this, I would have assumed Miami was the favorite.
Yeah, like that's what I assumed before looking into this too. And I was like, damn, really? People really bought into this OKC team.
I mean, they had home court, I guess, but I'm surprised they trusted a young team in the finals this much, especially because they were a jump shooting team.
Of course,
you
right?
can't win a championship with a jump shooting team, as Charles Barkley often said around this time.
It's so hilarious. Because now every team's a jump shooting team. Like these low post, you know, grind it out. They don't fucking exist anymore. Right. Game 1 in OKC, first ever NBA Finals game in Oklahoma City in only their 4th season in the city. I thought for sure this had to be a record for like, you know, quickest time a team arrives in a new city to their first NBA Finals game. Turns out no. Turns out it's actually been done quicker multiple times. Like the Warriors, Lakers, and Hawks all did it in their second seasons in new homes San Francisco, LA, and St. Louis. Now all this all happened like earlier than like the 70s when the league had like 10 teams. So if you don't really want to count it, fine. Either way, a phenomenal achievement for OKC to be in the finals this quickly after getting to their new home. Of course, OKC known for having one of the best crowds in the entire NBA in the worst of times. So in the best of times, that building is going to be rocking. But it was Miami who started this game out, up by as much as 13 in the second quarter. OKC keeps it close though. They trail only 7 at halftime, and then the second half was all Thunder. Russ and KD go absolutely nuts in the second half, combined for 41 points. Thunder outscore Miami by 18 in the second half. It was still a 1-point Thunder lead going into the fourth, but OKC pulls away in the fourth. They win 105-94, take a 1-0 lead in the series. LeBron and Wade go for 30 and 19 respectively, but they're easily outplayed by KD and Russ, who go for 36 and 27, with Russ also chipping in 11 assists. So game 2, not necessarily a must win for Miami, but they came out red hot.
This will be a theme for this series. You'll notice bad starts for the Thunder, good starts for Miami. They come out scorching 18-2 after 7 minutes. OKC, they stick around the first, but Miami still goes into halftime, lead by 12. And with Bosh back, the big three had a very productive first half. They combined for 37 of Miami's 55 points. Also, this was the game where Magic Johnson just flamed Russell Westbrook at halftime. Said it was the worst half of basketball in the NBA Finals he'd ever seen. I think specifically he was talking about point guards there, but it was still just like a crazy shot out of nowhere. Like Russ was bad, 9 points, 2 of 10 shooting, only 3 assists, but like he didn't have any turnovers. Like I get Magic has the credibility to say that, but it was a crazy shot to take.
This was back in the time where like the NBA was just starting to move more towards like the scoring style point guard.
Right.
Like back in this time, the idea of a point guard was still very much like
Steve Nash.
Yeah, Steve Nash, Rondo, Darren Williams, Chris Paul, you know, guys who are distributors first. And that's what Magic was. Magic was a distributor first. And then you got Russ coming in, who's not that. Russ is a good distributor, but he is, especially at this point in his career, he was a scorer, like attacker, first of all. And he comes out and he has a bad half where he shoots 2 of 10. I could see why Magic would disapprove that style of play, but to say it's the worst half of basketball in an NBA Finals, I'll go find a worse first half than that and I'll put it on screen. Like, again, bad half, worst in history, might be a bit much.
Yeah. Miami kept their lead at double digits for the entire third quarter, but midway through the fourth, the Thunder started to chip away, got it under double digits at the 8:22 mark, and finally got it within 1 possession after a Russ dunk, under 2 minutes left. On the next possession, though, LeBron hits a nice little bank shot from the left wing, and on the next possession after that, Wade drops a pass off to Bosh for a dunk. That pushed the lead up to 7. Immediately, though, Durant gets a layup. Next possession, Wade turns the ball over. The Thunder push it up. It leads to a Durant 3, so all of a sudden, leads all the way down to only 2. OKC then gets a stop, and Durant has the ball against LeBron, but his shot is short. He wanted to foul, but LeBron gets the rebound. LeBron goes to the line. He hits both free throws, ices the game for Miami. OKC, their first home loss of the playoffs. Bosh, in his first game back in the starting lineup, was massive. 16 points, 15 rebounds. Wade chips in 24, and LeBron, the star, the actual Batman, gives you 32, 8 boards, dishes out 5 assists, 12 of 12 from the free throw line. Gotta give Braun credit for that. Not known as a free throw shooter, we all know that. Missed those free throws against Indiana earlier in the playoffs. Didn't miss any tonight.
Game 3 back in Miami. It's back and forth for most of the first half. OKC was finally able to avoid a sluggish start. They only trailed Miami by 1 this time at halftime. Superstar duos were going at it in the first half. KD and Russ combined for 26. Meanwhile, LeBron and Wade combined for 27. Early in the third quarter, the Thunder, they threatened to pull away. They led by as much as 10, but Miami closes the quarter on a 15-3 run, takes the lead back going into the fourth. OKC was actually able to take the lead back with 7:30 to go, but LeBron and Wade responded with a pair of and ones, get the lead back up to 7. OKC hangs around, gets it down to 1 with a minute 30 to go, but Russ and KD miss their shots down the stretch. Miami hits their free throws, and they prevail 91-85. LeBron and Wade combined for 54 points, and the Heat take a 2-1 lead. And game 4, it was finally time, after 4 games of NBA Finals basketball, for Oklahoma City to actually get off to a great start. Blasted out to a 14-point lead after the first, and it would have been 17 if not for Norris Cole hitting a 3 right at the end of the first quarter.
Yep, but Miami starts the second quarter immediately 16-2 run, get right back in the game, and then disaster nearly struck for the Heat. Wade drives in, he injures his back on a layup attempt that Ibaka blocks, takes a hard foul there, and it's like, Wade's getting up there, a little bit more injury prone around this time. It was a scary moment, but is able to return to the game. OKC still keeps a slight lead, 3 going into halftime. Wade, LeBron, and Bosh combined for 28 in the first half, but this game, the Russell Westbrook show, I guess they showed him the Magic Johnson clip. 18 in the first half, and he was even better in the second half to lead the Thunder. Third quarter, Miami takes back control of the game, led by 4 going into the fourth. In the fourth quarter, though, game tied at 90. Another scare for the Heat. LeBron goes down on a drive. He ends up getting a layup like 10 seconds later, but clearly hurt. They just passed the ball up to him. He's noticeably limping. He had to check out the game for a bit, where the Thunder did take a 2-point lead, but right after he goes back in, Chris Bosh ties the game at 94. And then we got the iconic moment of this series. LeBron, visibly hobbled, nails a 3 over Thabo Sefolosha, puts the Heat up 3. They were saying it on like the game recap. Why the hell is Sefolosha backing off him so much? Like, dude's limping. You can probably stick with him.
Yeah, he's not gonna drive past you when he's hobbling. Like, he's gonna shoot a 3. I think it was this point where I first realized that people genuinely thought LeBron was a legit threat to Michael Jordan, because after the game, people were trying to act like LeBron was like faking this cramp to try to like add drama to the moment. I was like, let's get fucking real, guys. Like, LeBron is not going to fake an injury tied in the NBA Finals in the pivotal game 4.
Just for the narrative.
Exactly. If you're coming up with that conspiracy theory, you're out of it. Like, did he lie about seeing 3 rims against the Warriors?
Yes.
Yeah, he lied about that. 100%. Did he lie about this, injury, the cramp or whatever? No. Fuck no. Next possession, Wade blows by Russ for a layup that pushed the Heat lead up to 5, and OKC never got the ball back down 1 possession. Mario Chalmers hit a clutch layup and then made some free throws down the stretch to seal a 104-98 win for Miami. Thunder waste a 43-point, 7-board, 5 assists, 62.5% shooting game from Russell Westbrook. Durant also goes for 28, but no one else on the Thunder scores more than 8 points. Heat, meanwhile, get 26 from LeBron, 25 from Wade, 25 from Chalmers, and 13 from Bosh to take a 3-1 lead in the series. And in game 5, Miami rolls.
They didn't roll though from the very beginning. OKC did hang around in the first quarter and a half of the game, but the second half of the second quarter, they ended up trailing by 17. Mike Miller, as he randomly did in the finals, just explodes from 3. 4-4 from 3 in the first half. They cut the lead down to 10 at halftime. Like, OKC gave some fight, but the third quarter, Miami just explodes, going a 32-11 run in the third quarter, turn a 5-point game into a 26-point lead. OKC scores a bit down the stretch to make it look a little bit closer, but Miami dominates 121-106 06. Durant was great. He scored 32, but Russ followed up his incredible performance with a just awful performance.
Yeah, stinker.
Yeah. 19 points ain't too bad. 4 of 20 shooting.
Terrible.
Damn.
Meanwhile, Miami gets 26 from Braun, 20 from Wade, 24 from Bosh, and a career-high 23 points from Mike Miller. What an incredible performance. And as a team, I mean, they just buried OKC under an avalanche of threes. 14 of 26. Yes, 14 threes in 2012 was considered an avalanche back then. One funny anecdote about this game for me, I was on a cruise with my family up in Canada when this game was happening, and like the cruise had plenty of TVs, right? Like there was one in our room, there was plenty at like the bars and the restaurants, and they all had ESPN. For whatever reason though, the ESPN feed that they had was like a month old. Like I turned on ESPN the day before the game, and the SportsCenter feed was like recapping OKC's second round victory over the Lakers. And they were covering like all the sports stories from like a month ago. I was like, how does this even happen? How is this possible? So I actually didn't get to watch this game live. I just had to follow on the NBA app on like my iPhone 3G probably. And especially being in international waters back then, the coverage wasn't always super consistent. So I basically didn't get to watch this game until like a week later when I got back.
Yeah, we're blessed these days with the Watch ESPN, the, whatever streaming website you want to use. You can basically always watch a game as long as you have good enough internet connection. Back then, it used to be brutal. But back to the finals, LeBron visibly, as you'd expect, just jubilation from him. At the end of the game, I just love this line so much. Like, it's just perfect. It fits for so many scenarios. They ask him, like, how does it feel? And he says, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
Just fitting.
Perfect.
Perfect. Didn't feel forced. I love it.
So yeah, after the devastating loss the year prior, Miami returns to the NBA Finals. This time, gets the job done as not like heavy underdogs or anything, but definitely a lot of doubt throughout this run, whether it was against Indiana or especially against Boston. There was a lot of time when people counted them out and they came back and they won it all. LeBron wins Finals MVP. Like I said, year two came close to being the disaster of all disasters, especially against the Celtics, but LeBron gets that championship monkey off his back, finally shakes off his Finals demons from the year prior. And, without that like dark cloud hanging over him, it was plausible that Miami could dominate like the next half decade of the NBA. I don't think they were going to go for like 6 or 7 like LeBron said when he first got there, but if they can get Dwyane Wade back to his 2010-11 form, like still maybe 3-4 titles on the table at this point. So coming off their NBA championship, the Heat had a very eventful 2012 offseason. They didn't do much in the draft. They basically just flipped their 27th pick to Philly for Justin Hamilton and a future first that eventually conveyed into a second rounder. They basically did this to get a little more financial flexibility with the onset of the new stiffer luxury tax penalties. The move was in contrast though to what Heat execs said that they were going to do pre-draft, which was draft a player who could contribute immediately. Now, I'm not sure how many of those you could find at the 27th overall pick for a championship team, but interestingly enough, Draymond, a couple years later on his podcast, he said that the Heat promised to draft him if he fell to them at 27, only for them to eventually decide to go in a different direction. So obviously, drafting that late in the draft is kind of a crapshoot, but it's interesting that according to Draymond, like they had it lined up that they were going to take him, and then they decided, now we actually need some salary cap relief, right?
Draymond and Braun could have started that bromance like
a couple years earlier.
Yeah. Way earlier. So definitely would have been interesting. Obviously, it doesn't happen. In early July, Dwyane Wade had surgery on his left knee. He'd played through the whole 2012 playoffs with the knee injury bothering him, so got that corrected and was expected to be fine for the start of the season. And then 2 days later, the Heat made some big moves in free agency, at least like big moves they could made. First, they get Rashard Lewis, a former All-Star on a 2-year deal, a sharpshooting big, and then they signed Ray Allen to a 2-year, $6 million deal. The Heat are already this incredible team. They have this big three, and now you're adding like former All-Star Ray Allen, one of the best shooters in NBA history, like the best shooter in NBA history at the time. Apparently Ray Allen said he wanted to stay with the Celtics. He was looking for a 3-year, $24 million deal, and they instead offered him a 2-year, $12 million deal. Just doesn't feel real looking at those, like the fact that they weren't willing to pay 3-year, $24 million for Ray Allen. Of course, it's a different CBA, it's different salary cap at the time, but just just ridiculous. And the fact that, yeah, the Heat were adding this guy in some ways, you know, Ray Allen had that infamous feud with Rajon Rondo. Obviously, the Celtics were on the downhill. Kind of looked like their championship window was over. He could go to the Heat, win another ring, maybe multiple rings, but just crazy that their biggest rival, they're taking away a key piece from them.
Yeah, and I mean, their lack of a bench was arguably their biggest weakness. And now your sixth man is Ray Allen.
Crazy.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Couple weeks after landing Allen and Rashard Lewis, LeBron and Team USA tipped off the 2012 Summer Olympics in London. Wade was unable to participate due to his knee surgery, and Bosh withdrew due to an abdominal strain, so LeBron's the only Heat rep there. Team USA won gold, and I just specifically remember this team because they beat Nigeria 156-73, just completely shattered the record for points in a game, hit 29 threes, which at the time was more than the record for threes an NBA team had hit in a game. Next game, though, they get a scare from Linas Kleiza in Lithuania, and after that, they wreck everyone else until they take down Spain by 7 in a rematch of the 2008 gold medal game. Now to opening night, Heat hosting the Celtics. They get their rings, they raise their banner. This is also the game where Kevin Garnett just completely cold shoulders Ray Allen. Like, Ray got some love from some of the Celtics, like staff members and from Doc, but KG basically was just like, he said without saying it, he's just like, you.
Yeah.
I want nothing to do with you.
I mean, I get it. Kevin Garnett's just that type of dude. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, no hate. That's just how he is.
I think in the offseason he said like he lost Ray's phone number or something like that.
So funny.
Yeah.
Boston kept it competitive in the first half, but a big third quarter by the Heat just blew the game open. Miami wins 120-107 to begin their title defense. Heat start the season very well. They were 12-3 after the first 15 games. Early on, Ray Allen immediately proved his value. Heat's third game of the season, he hits a 3 with a foul to give the Heat a 3-point lead against the Nuggets. Also, LeBron would get a banner before this game for winning the gold medal, like for Team USA. We both don't really understand why this happened. I don't know if it's just to glaze LeBron even more, but
I guess, I mean, his contract was up in like 2 years. Might as well get ahead on it.
Like, is that banner still there to this day? Just 2012 gold medal champ?
Maybe.
I guess so.
I mean, this is the same organization that retired Michael Jordan.
True.
You know, a player that never played for
They're
them.
just different.
So, yeah, it's a Heat thing, maybe.
Right.
They also had a big comeback against the Cavs at home. They win 110-108 after trailing by 13 in the third quarter and 7 with only 2 minutes to go. A game that, fun fact, I was actually at. My grandpa used to live in Fort Myers, Florida, so my family was visiting him for Thanksgiving, and we made the 3-hour drive across the state to Miami for this game. Didn't expect much from it because, you know, it's the Cavs. It's at home. We thought the Heat were going to blow them out, but hey, we got one hell of a game, and Ray Allen again proves his worth. Hit the game winner with 18 seconds left.
I will say this did not help your bandwagon allegations at the time. You were already rocking all the Heat stuff on 2K.
Okay.
Had the arena, the jerseys, you know, that you were this huge LeBron fan.
Yeah.
I know had at least one Heat jersey.
I've shown you that Heat jersey. I still have it to this day.
Exactly. It didn't help the allegations. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Going to a Heat game in Miami.
Okay. I will say, though, those white hot Heat jerseys on 2K13, so nice.
Okay, that's
so
fair.
clean. And
That's fair.
what am I going to do? Run the Memphis court with the Heat jerseys? Like,
You could rock the Blazers stuff like I did. That's all I'm saying.
The Blazers didn't have a jersey as nice as that white hot one.
That is fair. That is a fair point. I'm just saying it didn't help the allegations.
They also had a game against the Spurs on November 29th, and in the decades since, this has become kind of an infamous game. On the surface, it doesn't look like anything other than just a random regular season game between two good teams, other than the fact that Greg Popovich rested basically his entire starting five. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Danny Green, all weren't even with the Spurs. They flew back to San Antonio early. And, you know, this was the Spurs' 6th game of a road trip, as well as their 4th game in 5 nights. Older team, I get it. Pop wanted to rest his guys, but it completely blew up a national TV game between the Heat and Spurs, and David Stern was pissed. He fined the Spurs $250,000, and pretty much whenever people talk about like the whole modern era of load management, this is kind of the point where everyone's like, yeah, this is where it started.
Yeah, 100%. That was the moment it started. After losing 3 of 5, including home losses to New York and Golden State, they rebounded with a 5-game winning streak. It included a Christmas Day finals rematch versus the Thunder. Russ had 21 points, 11 rebounds, so a double-double, but he really struggled, 5 of 19 from the field. Durant kept the Thunder in it though, 33 points, 7 boards, hit a big dunk with 44 seconds left. That cut the Heat lead down to 1. Next possession though, LeBron had a great pass to Bosh underneath for a dunk. KD hits a tough jumper, cuts the lead back down to 1. Ray Allen gets some free throws, so the Heat are up 3. Durant misses a 3 though. Thunder got the rebound, kicks it out to Russ for a 3, and he did probably get fouled on this, but he follows that up, smacking the scorer's table, gets teed up, seals the game for Miami, you know. No hate to Russ, but the dude, he just wears his emotions on his sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no hate to Russ, but it's just funny.
Yeah, it is.
Like, your chances of winning at that point are basically zero, but you just throw them all away by just smacking the scores table. The Heat would be up and down for the next few weeks. They followed up 2 disappointing road losses to Detroit and Milwaukee with 2 OT wins against Orlando and Dallas. Played a great game against the Blazers in Portland, a game that I was at. I cheered for the Blazers in this one, so I don't want to hear none of that bandwagon bullshit. I always cheer for my team.
Fair enough, that's true.
My first team, my hometown team over anyone. Game came down to the wire, and the Blazers tied and then took the lead with 2 Wesley Matthews threes on back-to-back possessions. Final possession, Chalmers got a wide open 3, but it just goes in and out, and the Blazers win 92-90. They then went on the road and took down the Lakers thanks to LeBron's 39 points. Also, quick roster move on January 20th, they signed Birdman to a 10-day contract. They'd quickly re-up him to a second 10-day and then eventually would sign him for the rest of the season. Also, the game that Birdman made his debut was the game that one Heat fan hit like the half-court hook shot for $75,000 and was subsequently tackled by LeBron. Like, this is up there as one of the best fan half-court shots ever. I think it might only slightly be topped by the one Suns fan who did it granny style and swished it, but just like the wonky, like hook shot, it's perfect. And by the way, like 2 months later, a Thunder fan hit a half-court shot, and sure enough, Kevin Durant runs right on the floor, gives the guy a hug. So, you know, take that, people who say LeBron hasn't made an impact on the younger players of the league.
Couple things I gotta say about that. First, if I was tackled by LeBron, especially, you know, while game worn while he's playing, never washing that shirt again. In fact, on top of it, I might start every morning taking a big old sniff.
Start your day by taking a whiff of greatness.
Exactly. And it has to be said, KD, again, just copying Braun, you know, join the Warriors. That was like his version of the decision. It's just what he does.
They did drop a double overtime game in Boston in January. This was Ray Allen's return to Boston. Got a mixed reaction from the Celtics fans at first during his video tribute, but that, you know, chorus of like mixture and booze kind of morphed into more of a positive response after they showed the footage of him, you know, breaking the 3-point record in the 2008 finals and whatnot. He did kind of stick it to him though, a little bit. Hit a huge 3 to cut a 4-point Celtics lead down to 1. And then the next possession when the Heat were down 3 again, missed a 3, but the Heat get it back and LeBron nails a 3 to tie the game, sends it to OT. In OT, Jason Terry plays great defense on Wade down the stretch, so now we're off to a double OT. And then the second OT, Pierce gives Boston the lead with a long 2. The Heat then go to Wade, who gives it off to Battier, who just misses everything, and the Celtics win 100-98. Interesting trivia about this game though, it was revealed mid-game that Rajon Rondo tore his ACL. He actually hadn't done it in this game. He did it in the Celtics prior game against Atlanta, but the news dropped during this game. And in fact, Doris Burke broke the news to Paul Pierce in the post-game interview, which is
just brutal. Like, you get this big win against the team you hate that just stole your guy, and then you're basically told, yeah, your season's kind of over at this point.
Yeah. Your best player is done for the year.
Right. He'd go 1-1 in the next 2 games, but then starting with a 15-point road win against the Raptors, they embark on one of the greatest winning streaks in NBA history. Technically, it's not the longest, but given it happened in the modern NBA, you could say it's the best. We already have a whole video on this winning streak, so we're just gonna, you know, detail the big moments, the greatest hits. After winning their first 3 games in the streak, the next 7 were by double digits, and it was against some good teams, the Clippers, Lakers, Thunder, Bulls. The Lakers one was really the last big matchup of Kobe versus LeBron, at least while they were still in their prime. This was the game where Nash and Dwight got into it with each other, so not a very good game for the Lakers. Had a brief intermission at the start of the streak for All-Star Weekend. In Houston, all of Big 3 were of course selected as All-Stars. You had LeBron and Wade as starters, and Bosh was selected by the coaches. And for the first time, Spo was coaching the East All-Stars. You had Team Bosh winning the Shooting Stars Challenge. Remember when that existed?
Exactly.
I mean, that was kind of fun, to be honest.
Honestly, I had fun with it, yeah. Like the last shot was a half-court shot. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and even though Bosh was a reserve for the East, starting point guard Rajon Rondo was out with an injury, so Spo inserted Bosh into the starting lineup so the Big 3 could start the All-Star game together. In the game itself, Wade scored 21 and LeBron chipped in 19, but it was the West who prevailed, 143-138 behind Chris Paul's 20 points and 15 assists. Also, after a couple wins coming out of the All-Star break, the Heat released their version of the Harlem Shake. Remember that?
Oh my God.
Does that make you feel old?
That's a throwback.
Yeah, it's been 10 plus years since the Harlem Shake was a thing. Some real gems in this, by the way. LeBron with the King outfit, Mario Chalmers dressed as Mario, Shane Battier with the horse head, Birdman just standing in the back with his arms raised the entire time not moving a muscle. Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis with this Phantom of the Opera look. UD with the WWE Championship. It's just a fun thing that like showed the chemistry and camaraderie that this team had.
Yeah, and it was a super iconic one. Like pull up, Harlem Shake compilation.
It's in there.
You will always find this one, and again, so goofy, so funny. It was peak. Then they had a 14-point comeback on the road versus Carmelo and the Knicks. They beat Orlando when LeBron had a game-winning layup. And then on March 18th, on the road against the Celtics, Heat trailed by as much as 16, but they rally back. LeBron gives you 37, including, I'll say it, the most disrespectful dunk in NBA history.
Hey, DeAndre Jordan might have something to say about
True.
But no, this one's up there.
But this one, Norris Cole, Mario Chalmers, it ends up lob to LeBron, who just throws it down on Jason Terry. And I've seen on TikTok, like recently, some dude has somehow like recreated this dunk in VR where you can do it from Jason Terry's angle, where you got LeBron throwing it down on you. You can do it LeBron's angle where you're dunking on Jason Terry.
Okay, you might need to find that for me because I have a VR headset around here somewhere. And I'd love to experience what it's like to be LeBron James dunking on Jason Terry.
Yeah, oh my God. Like I said, so damn disrespectful. LeBron stares like down at Jason Terry. Fuck the ref for giving LeBron a technical.
Honestly.
In some ways, I understand it. It was that disrespectful. He had to step in and do something.
But he doesn't even say anything. He just kind of like looks at him briefly and then walks away.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Jeff Green has the performance of his life too in this game. Puts up 43 points, but it's not enough. LeBron hits that long two down the stretch, rattles it in, and the Heat extend the winning streak to 23. Very next game though, they go on the road against the 22-win Cavaliers for what should be an easy win. Instead, Cleveland jumps out to a 27-point third quarter lead. And it wasn't even because they were playing all that well. It was just that Miami could get absolutely nothing going on offense in the first half. But after going down 27, Heat closed the third on a 28-10 run, started the fourth on a 17-2 run to take a 6-point lead. They'd hold the lead down the stretch, although CJ Miles had one final shot to tie the game, but missed, and Miami wins. Largest comeback in Miami Heat history, and the winning streak extends to 24 games.
He then picked up a few more wins just against bottom feeder Eastern Conference teams, and then marched into United Center against the Bulls. They're on a 27-game winning streak, and then the Bulls kind of just jumped on them early on. They led by 13 early. LeBron had 18 at halftime, but the Bulls had a balanced scoring attack. Dang, Boozer, Nate Robinson, Jimmy led them to a 9-point lead at halftime, and then Miami turned up the heat on defense, held the Bulls to only one field goal in the first 7:30 of the third quarter, retook the lead off a Shane Battier 3, but Chicago got their act together on offense, winning the fourth with a 1-point lead, and Chicago kept it up in the fourth, took an 8-point lead with 4 minutes left, and that's when LeBron hit Boozer with a pretty hard elbow on a screen.
And it doesn't faze Boozer.
Doesn't faze him, and Boozer was ready to throw down. LeBron James was not.
I love how like Boozer like cocks his shoulders like he's just like prepping his arms to
Right.
start swinging on LeBron. Yeah, Chicago holds on 103-97. The winning streak ends at 27 games, 6 off the all-time record of the 71-72 Lakers. So the Heat miss out on breaking the all-time record, but they only lose one game the rest of the season. That was a home game against the Knicks in which LeBron and Wade didn't play and Carmelo gives you 50. That also did include a stretch where they got a road win in San Antonio, also without LeBron and Wade. And this was one where Bosh hit a big game-winning three, which he had a tendency to do in games
really
in games especially that Wade and LeBron sat out. Like he did it against us, he did it against Atlanta. It was a weird running trend for these Heat teams.
They'd win their final 8 games of the season and finish the year with a very impressive 66-16 record, 6 games better than any other team in the NBA and better than any team in the East by 12 games. Kind of a fun fact in there. I think after signing Chris Anderson, they had a 90% winning percentage.
There you go.
Which definitely was just because of him balling.
100%. It's Birdman,
Yeah.
right? He gave them that interior presence that they'd always missed.
Right, they really needed him. So the Heat going to the playoffs as the first seed, matched up with the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the most forgettable playoff series basically ever, because this Bucks team just had no business playing against the Heat. I mean, they won 38 games. They had Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis, if you remember that weird duo. And we're not even going to recap the entire series.
Not worth the time.
Yeah, it's really not worth the time. Miami won every game in this series by double figures. And while outside of game one, the Bucks never really got completely blown out. There was never really a point in this series where it was ever up for a competition. Like game three, the first half was somewhat close, but I mean, a 38-win Bucks team, they weren't doing shit against the Heat. We all know that. We knew it before the series, and Miami obviously sweeps them 4-0.
So round two of the playoffs against an old foe in the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls had defeated the Nets in 7 in the first round, but they were without Derrick Rose, who was still recovering from his ACL tear. And prior to game one, LeBron receives his 4th MVP award, to date his last, and probably will be the last MVP award for his career. He received 120 of the 121 possible first place votes, with only one voter, Gary Washburn, voting for Carmelo Anthony instead.
I just felt like Carmelo Anthony elevated his team this year to new heights.
Turn, heretic.
I'm just going to say it, an egregious pick. I mean, Melo had LeBron slightly beaten points per game and free throw percentage, but LeBron clobbers him in every other statistical category, and of course laps him on the defensive end, and his team won 12 more games in the same conference. I don't know how you could give this vote to Melo, but he did, robbed LeBron of the honor of being the first unanimous MVP. And while this game was a sluggish one right out the gate, the Heat really struggled offensively in the first half, but fortunately for them, their opponents were the Bulls, who also struggled offensively in the first half. Game was tied at 37 at halftime, with the Heat shooting only 33%, and the guy that I just argued should have been the first unanimous MVP in NBA history had 2 points on 1 of 6 shooting.
Third quarter, the Heat picked it up a bit offensively, shooting 50%, but Nate Robinson basically single-handedly kept the Bulls in the game, scores 13 points in the third, and in the fourth, LeBron wakes up, he scores 15 points, so you're thinking the Heat won this game. No, they lost by 7. Yeah. The Bulls scored nearly as much just in the fourth quarter as they did in the first half. And Nate, by the way, Nate Robinson had some random playoff games where he stepped up, had to get 10 stitches at halftime after he cut up his lip, scored 24 points in the second half, including the final 7 for Chicago, and the Bulls win 93-86. Crazy to think about, this was the Heat's 3rd loss in their last 44 games.
I mean, that's just a heroic performance from Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
As someone who's had like a deep cut in his lip and has had it stitched
Right.
up, can't imagine playing hoops right after that. I was like, let me go home and just like sleep for 12 hours. Nah, Nate was like, nah, I'm gonna drop 24 second half points. Game 2, the Heat get back on track with what was basically a wire-to-wire win. The teams traded the lead a little bit in the first quarter, but after that point, Miami took control and never really looked back. Ray Allen led the Heat in scoring with 21 off the bench, and the Bulls only scored 78 points as the Heat win by 37. Also, kind of a fun fact, Shane Battier only played 22 minutes in this game and had 3 points on 1 of 8 shooting, and yet he led all players in plus minus with a plus 42.
Hey, Shane Battier, he made plays.
He does
Wasn't always in the box score.
He does the little things,
exactly.
Right? Yes.
Game 3, much more competitive, 14 ties, 11 lead changes. Up until the fourth, no team had a larger lead than 7, which was a 7-0 run by Chicago that they started the game with. In the fourth quarter, the Heat pull away. Braun made some big plays, and then Norris Cole hits back-to-back threes down the stretch. They hold off the Bulls, win 104-94, retake home court advantage, and then game 4 really can only be described as an unacceptable offensive performance by the Chicago Bulls, and that's understating it. Like, Miami wasn't great offensively. They shot the ball fine, 48.5% from the field, but they only scored 88 points because they had 17 turnovers, so they weren't like great on offense. But luckily for them, the Bulls were just downright horrific. 65 points on an absolutely unforgivable 25.7% from the field.
A fun fact, this is the worst shooting percentage by the Bulls in a single playoff game in franchise history by a huge margin. Second worst is 31.1%. This is also their 3rd worst shooting percentage in any game, period. And it's the 3rd worst shooting percentage in a playoff game by any team since the merger. The only 2 that were worse was the Hornets in 2004. They shot 24.4% against, coincidentally, Miami as well. And then the Blazers shot 24.7% against the Spurs in 99. Jimmy Butler was probably the best player for the Bulls, and he scored 12 points on 4 of 10 shooting. Rip Hamilton, I guess, wasn't god-awful, but Boozer shot 3 of 14, and Nate Robinson shot 0 of 12.
I mean, that was the thing with Nate Robinson. He was either scoring like 20 in the fourth, or he was giving you a donut.
Yeah, exactly.
All respect in the world to him, but that's what he did. Braun scored 27, and like the Heat one going away, because how can you not when the other team is that bad? Only negative though, Wade re-aggravated a knee injury.
Game 5, though, much more competitive, although early on it looked like it could be another Heat rout. Despite his injury in Game 4, Wade started the game for the Heat, and they took an 18-2 lead right out the gate, but the Bulls kept pace, only trailed by 9 after the first, and then they actually had an excellent second quarter, led by Nate Robinson. This was one of those heaters he was on. Him and Jimmy led the way for the Bulls. They outscored Miami 32-17, had a 6-point lead, despite all 3 members of the Big Three scoring in double figures in the first half, and had an 8-point lead going into the fourth, but the fourth was all about the Heat bench. Wade and LeBron did combine for 10 in the fourth, but the Heat got 15 points from their bench. Nate, though, hit a 3 with a minute 43 to go to get the Bulls within 3, but they were held scoreless by the Heat for the rest of the game, and on their final possession, both Nate and Jimmy missed threes that could have tied the game. Heat survived 94-91 and advanced back to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Eastern Conference Finals, the Heat match up with the Indiana Pacers. A rematch of the second round the previous season where Indiana kind of gave the Heat a scare. Even then, though, I don't think many people were thinking Indiana had any chance in this series. They beat Atlanta in round 1, upset the Knicks in round 2, and it was a different Indiana team. You know, Danny Granger, their top scorer the season prior. He only played 5 games this season, missed the entire playoff run. You had Paul George, who this was really his breakout season. First year making the All-Star team. And then you had Lance Stevenson, the LeBron, nemesis, irritant, whatever you want to call him. He was now in the starting lineup, started every game he played for this Pacers team. So a familiar foe from last season, but some key changes to this team. And we got a good one right out the bat in game 1. 18 ties, 17 lead changes throughout the night. And the first half, the Pacers, this is what they did in the matchups against the Heat. They were just exploding. They had all the size. Yeah. David West, Roy Hibbert.
This is like the one weakness Miami had through this entire run was their lack of size. I mean, they had Bosh and UD and Birdman off the bench, but Roy Hibbert and David West were just eating them alive inside. West had 18 and Hibbert had 8 as the Pacers led by 5 at halftime. Bosh and LeBron combined for 19 in the third to keep the Heat in it. Meanwhile, Pacers get 7 from Paul George. And how about 8 from Psycho T?
Our boy.
Tyler Hansbrough. How about that?
Yeah.
Fourth quarter was back and forth, but the Heat found themselves with a 3-point lead with 17 seconds to go when Paul George hits a clutch 3 with 0.7 seconds left. And it's almost like a double clutch kind of, because he goes up with it on his left side and then readjusts it to be on his right side a little bit more. I remember watching that live and just being like, holy shit. And then I remember going outside in the park the next day or in my backyard and trying to recreate how he did that. So I'm like, what, 15 at the time, not the strongest kid in the world. And I'm just like, how the fuck did he even get the ball to the hoop, much less make the shot?
I mean, it's such an iconic shot. If you didn't see it live, you've probably seen it in some highlight mix, playoff mix. Ray Allen, next possession, he hits the side of the backboard. So we're headed to overtime.
Way off.
Right? Why doesn't Ray Allen get flamed for that? Overtime was back and forth. Paul George gives the Pacers a 3-point lead with a tough and one. Couple minutes later, Chris Bosh gets an and one for himself off a putback. Does get away with a push on Roy Hibbert, but it's the playoffs. It's physical basketball. LeBron, a few plays later, gets a layup with 10 seconds to go, only for Wade to foul Paul George. There was a little scramble. Then Paul George gets a 3. A little minimal contact on this, but it's a 3-pointer. Paul George goes to the line, knocks down all 3 free throws. This was really Paul George breaking out. He was clutch in these moments. So the Pacers lead by 1, 2.2 seconds left. Not only, we also got to mention, did Wade foul him there? Costly. He's fouled out. He's gone for the night. Next possession though, Badia, he inbounds the ball to LeBron, and LeBron gets, I'll just say it, the easiest game winner he'll ever get in his entire career. Middle school, high school, rookie year. It was just a cakewalk to the basket.
Yeah, also shout out Pacers shooting guard Sam Young for just not even trying to contest the LeBron layup. I get it. He's only 6'6", not in a great position, but just tackle Bron, honestly, at that point. Because if not, he's getting an uncontested layup 2 inches from the rim. But LeBron gets the layup, makes it. It's out of his hand with more than enough time, and the Heat stun the Pacers 103-102. And you know what? In game 2, the Pacers came out like a team that was pissed that they blew game 1. They led by as much as 13 in the first half. David West and Roy Hibbert again are dominating in the paint. Heat hung around though, only trailed by 6 at halftime. End of the third quarter though is where we got the iconic play from this game, and it was really the play that I think fully signaled signaled that this guy, Paul George, is going to be a star for some years to come. I mean, we had already got that in like game 1 with that clutch 3, but this is the play that put him over the top. Drives past LeBron and just yams it on Chris Anderson. Like, respect to Chris Anderson for trying to stop it, but George just elevates and hammers it down on him. Honestly, it's the most iconic play of his career, outside of the way off thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best playoff dunks I've ever seen. LeBron, next possession, knocks down a deep 3 at the buzzer. Actually gave like Paul George a high five as they're each walking to their sides of the court, which for some reason became like a controversy. I mean, I get it. They're like going at each other. It was a little bit awkward how it went down. Paul George's like, he's going for a high five. Like, what's going on? But like, you know, LeBron respected what was happening. You know, it was the guy, LeBron, who's been there, and then the young guy coming up in Paul George.
Exactly. It's like, who the f cares? Like, I couldn't find the footage of it, but I swear to God, of course, Skip was like bitching and moaning on first tap. Maybe Bron's just like, you know what, youngster, like, not half bad.
Right,
not
respect.
Half bad. Exactly. Fourth quarter was back and forth, but ultimately 2 big turnovers down the stretch from LeBron sealed the Heat's fate, and the Pacers wrapped it up, hitting their free throws. And just like the prior season in the conference semifinals, the Pacers steal game 2 in Miami, and game 3 in Indiana wasn't much of a game. I mean, the Pacers briefly led in the beginning, but Miami took control from then on, never lost the lead. They had 70 by halftime, led by 14, and the Pacers got within single digits a couple of times. They were never really within striking distance, though. Every Heat starter scores at least 14 points. LeBron leads the way with 22, and Miami wins 114-96 to take back home court.
Game 4, Pacers come out and have a much better start, powered by George Hill, Roy Hibbert. They go for 12 and 11 in the first half. But what was notable from the first half of this game, we had the LeBron-Lance Stevenson beef. It was reignited. Paul George, he picked up 3 fouls in the first half, had to sit most of the second quarter. So with LeBron's primary defender and Paul George out, here comes Lance, and you know, they're getting into it as Lance does.
Yeah.
LeBron still had 11 in the first half, but not on good shooting, 3 of 10. And the Pacers held a 1-point lead at halftime. They extend that lead in the third, go up 7 going into the fourth, and then in the fourth, things just fell apart for Miami. LeBron specifically, 4 fouls in the fourth quarter alone, fouls out for the second, and to this point, I mean, you never know what could happen in his final year, final 2 years for the Lakers, his second time ever fouling out in his playoff career, and this is the last time it's happened.
Lance drops 20 of his own, though, second only to Roy Hibbert's 23, and the Pacers hold on to even this series 99-92. So we're back in Miami for game 5, and the Pacers led for all but about 23 seconds of the first half. Again, David West and Roy Hibbert just giving it to the Heat. They have 10 and 14 apiece. Paul George has 15 of his own, but outside of those 3, the rest of the Pacers only combined for 5 points in the first half. LeBron had 11 at halftime and got contributions from Chalmers and Bosh, but they still trailed by 4, but the Pacers were undone by a huge Miami third quarter. LeBron outscored the Pacers all by himself, 16-13, and the Heat turned a 4-point deficit into a 13-point lead by the start of the fourth, and the Pacers never got close to the 9 in the fourth quarter, and the Heat cruised to a 90-79 win. Game 6 kind of played out in the same way.
Yeah, Hibbert and PG, again, they dominate in the first half, 13 apiece. LeBron leads the way for the Heat with 14. This time, though, it was the Heat's turn to get dominated in the third. I mean, the Pacers shoot over 70%, where the Heat, they shoot 25%. Pacers race out to a 13-point lead to start the fourth, and from there, they hold on to win game 6, holding Miami to only 77 points, forcing a game 7 back in Miami, a chance to, you know, have this huge moment for Indiana.
They got smacked upside the head.
Yeah, it was competitive for about a quarter. You know, the Heat trailed by 2 after the first, but then they outscore the Pacers 33-16 in the second quarter, and you never look back from there. They extended the lead in the third, extended it to even more in the fourth, and you win 99-76, and you hold Paul George to 7 points. Like, great series for him, great season, but when it mattered, they just shut his ass down.
And that would become a theme for his career.
True.
Yeah, LeBron and Wade combined for 53, and the Heat are off to their 3rd consecutive NBA Finals. And in the 2013 Finals, the Heat would match up with the San Antonio Spurs. The Heat's 3rd straight trip to the Finals, the Spurs' first trip since 2007. The Spurs had swept the Dwight-led Lakers in round 1, taking out Golden State in 6 in round 2, and then swept the Grizzlies in the conference finals. Remember, last year's West champion Oklahoma City was derailed by Russ's torn meniscus in round 1. Obviously, the Spurs have got plenty of championship pedigree, and it was a familiar opponent for LeBron, as his first NBA Finals in 2007 was against the Spurs. Heat were still the big favorite. I mean, there were some people picking the Spurs for this series. I think the fact that Indiana had pushed Miami to 7, and especially Roy Hibbert had dominated the Heat in that series. I think a lot of people were looking at the Heat and being like, oh, you know, what happens with the, you know, the Tim Duncan, Chris Bosh, or Tim Duncan Birdman matchup? You know, that could be a point of weakness for the Heat that the Spurs could eventually exploit, but still, Miami was definitely the favorite.
First quarter of game 1 was pretty back and forth, but once we got to the second, the Heat started to build up their lead, led by as much as 9. Generally kind of held like a 5-6 point lead for most of the second quarter. Wade led the way. He had 13 first half points. LeBron chips in 10, and then Duncan led the way for the Spurs with 12. Also hit a buzzer beater at the end of the half, so the Heat take a 3-point lead at halftime. The third quarter was more of the same. The Heat were able to build up a 7-point lead at one point. By the end of the quarter, we're right back at it. Heat leading by 3, and then again a fourth quarter where the Heat just kind of fall apart. Turned it over 5 times in the fourth, and Tony Parker was huge late, leading a comeback for the Spurs. And after a Danny Green 3 with 2:13 left, the Spurs had taken a 7-point lead of their own.
Yeah, Heat battle back, cut it down to just 2 with 31 seconds left after LeBron hits 2 free throws. Next possession for the Spurs, though, the Heat played about as good a defense as you possibly can on the Spurs. They had Tony Parker quite literally dribbling in circles, like trying to find some avenue to get to the basket. Even after Tony falls down, though, he gets back up, regains himself, gets around LeBron, and banks in a jumper to give the Spurs a 4-point lead. And up until like Aaron Gordon's putback dunk we just had these past playoffs, this was, I think, like the closest buzzer beater I had ever seen, because it's like frame by frame. You know, one frame, the ball's right on his fingertips. The next, it's slightly out and the backboard's lit up red. But he gets it off in time. Last possession, Wade actually gets a great look at a layup, but blows it, and the Spurs come into Miami and shock the Heat in game 1. Tony Parker scores 10 in the fourth and 21 on the game. And other than him, I mean, he got help. Spurs had 4 other players in double figures. Meanwhile, LeBron led the Heat with an 18-point, 18 rebound, 10 assist triple-double, but only gets 17 from Wade and 13 from Bosh, and the Heat find themselves in a 1-0 hole.
Game 2, basically a must-win. You can't go down 0-2. And the Heat came out, you know, not great, to be honest. Only 22 points after the first, and then the Spurs were led by Danny Green, who shot 3 of 3 from downtown. Little spoiler here, that's going to be a theme for this series.
This dude was on a heater this series.
Absolutely nuclear. He were a bit better in the second, had a 5-point lead going into halftime. LeBron was struggling, but Wade and Chalmers picked up the slack, and the Heat did a really good job on defense, just basically outside of Danny Green, because there was nothing you could do on him. Third quarter again was solid for Miami. Played great defense, outscored the Spurs by 5. They took a 10-point lead going in the fourth, and then in the fourth, they just dominated. It wasn't even like the big 3. It was like this lineup of like LeBron, Mike Miller, Ray Allen, and Birdman, just
exactly.
like absolutely dominating. They go on a 19-2 run, take a 27-point lead, and this included LeBron's iconic block on Thiago Splitter. Splitter, he thinks he has like a wide open dunk. He gets the ball in that pick and roll, is ready to yam it down, and LeBron literally meets him there, all ball, blocks it, just incredible all around.
Yeah, I mean, I get it's Thiago Splitter, not exactly a high flyer or anything, right, or a big star, you know, known for his crushing dunks or anything. But there's the fact that LeBron just like sends it right back into him. He doesn't like block it away. He just meets him right there and just like stops all the momentum, stops everything, just like crunches it downward. One of the best blocks you'll ever see, and the Heat win going away 103-84 to even the series at 1-1. Now off to San Antonio for game 3. Spurs led early, but the Heat hung around. LeBron again was really struggling. He only had 4 points in the first half, but Bosh and Wade combined for 22, and Mike Miller comes off the bench to hit 3 3-pointers. Miami trailed by as much as 10 in the second, though, but they would come back, tie the game at 44 with less than a minute to go heading into halftime. So, you know, you're thinking, all right, you know, we got some momentum, we're tied up, only for the Spurs to hit back-to-back threes going into halftime, steal all momentum, and take a 6-point lead. And then in the second half, the Spurs absolutely dominated. They extended the lead to as much as 21 in the third, and then in the fourth just stepped on Miami's throat. They outscored them by 21, led by as much as 37, and ended up winning 113-76 7. Mike Miller was really the only Heat player who had a good game. He had 15 points on 5 of 5 shooting, all of them were 3-pointers. And meanwhile for the Spurs, Danny Green and Gary Neal combined for 51 fucking
That's
points
ridiculous.
and hit 13 threes just between them two. Miami as a total team hit 8. Not a great day for the Heat.
I remember after this series, I thought 2K14, they were going to give Danny Green like a 99-3. It was just like I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. Game 4 is an obvious must-win for Miami, not just because you can't go down 3-1. There's only been one team to ever come back from that in the finals, and at this point, there'd never been a team, but also because this was the old 2-3-2 format. So if you lose this game, you're setting up a potential elimination game still in San Antonio. Spurs jumped out to an early 10-point lead in the first quarter, but by the end of the first, Miami actually had a 3-point lead. From there, though, the Heat take a 10-point lead by the middle of the second. The Spurs then are able to close the half on an 18-8 run, tie the game at 49 going into halftime, and it was the future Hall of Famers killing it for the Heat. Yeah, LeBron, Wade, Bosh, and Ray Allen, they were balling out, but the rest of your supporting cast gives you 4 points combined, and then meanwhile, much more balance for the Spurs, led by Tony Parker, giving you 15.
Yeah, early in the third, the Heat and Spurs traded the lead back and forth, but Miami took the lead for good with a layup from Ray Allen with about 6 minutes to go in the third. Heat pushed the lead up to 5 by the end of the quarter, and in the fourth, they put the game out of reach. Dwyane Wade scored 10 of his 32 and had 3 of his 6 steals in the fourth as the Heat pull away and win 109-93. Wade was excellent in the fourth quarter, had a big rip-through dunk on a fast break that gave the Heat a 9-point lead with about 8 minutes to go, made some more plays down the stretch to finish off the Spurs. LeBron, of course, excellent, 33 and 11 boards, while Bosh also chipped in 20 points and had 13 rebounds. And again, outside of LeBron, Wade, Bosh, and Ray Allen in the first half, the rest of the Heat scored 4 points. The second half, the rest of the Heat scored 6 points. So they had 10 total points outside of the big 3 and Ray Allen.
Yeah, back when 4 dudes could carry your entire team to a finals.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Pivotal game 5, tied 2-2, and unfortunately the Heat just came out ice cold, and the Spurs came out red hot. The Spurs shoot 63% in the first quarter compared to 30% for the Heat. Spurs take a 13-point lead after the first. Spurs push that lead up to 17 in the second because, again, Danny Green's hitting everything. Hit 3 threes in a row in less than 2 minutes. Again, I've never seen anything like this from a role player. I mean, I guess he has 3 rings on 3 different teams, so
makes sense.
Danny Green's just that dude.
Honestly, if the Spurs had won this series, he might have added a finals MVP to that trophy case too.
After going down 17, though, the Heat, they respond with a 12-0 run. They get back in the game, close the half only trailing by 9. And with 2:14 left in the first half, we had an iconic moment here. It was LeBron at the free throw line. He looks back and he sees Kawhi checking in and he says like, damn, or maybe he said like, fuck or something. We're not exactly sure. I mean, of course, LeBron, as he always does, he was lying about it. He said it wasn't because, Kawhi was checking in. He was just messed up by his rhythm of the substitution.
Right, it was a late sub and it,
I ain't buying that. I ain't buying it, King. I love you, but that's cap. Started the third quarter on an 8-0 run, so immediately they cut this lead all the way down to 1. They're right back in this game, but the Spurs, they respond with a run of their own, get the lead right back up to 8. Spurs built that lead up to 12 going into the fourth, and within a few minutes of the fourth, they had this up to 20. This Spurs team came in flurries.
They did. I mean, the Heat cut the lead a little bit, but they still end up losing by 10, 114-104. LeBron and Wade both gave you 25. Bosh had 16 of his own, and Ray Allen chipped in 21 off the bench, but they just could not stop the Spurs offense this game. Tony Parker gives you 26. Manu had 24. Danny Green, like I said, continued his finals MVP campaign. 24 points and 6 threes. Just ridiculous. And the Spurs also got contributions from Duncan and a young Kawhi Leonard. And yeah, you're not going to beat many Spurs teams if you let them shoot 60%. So the Spurs win. They take a 3-2 lead, headed back to Miami. So the Heat make it back to Miami for Game 6, a game that is arguably the greatest NBA game ever played. I still think it's Game 7 of the 2016 Finals, but in my opinion, it's between this two, and there are times where I'm like, you know what, I'll just flip a coin. And heads, it's the 2013 Finals Game 6, and tails, it's the 2016 Finals Game 7. I mean, this is one of the greatest basketball games we have ever seen. And both teams started very well offensively in the first quarter. Spurs shot 61% in the first, and Tim Duncan especially was dominating, but the Heat shot 4 of 6 from 3, still had a 2-point lead after the first quarter. Second quarter, Heat went cold, and, Timmy at, what was he at this point? Like probably 36, 35, whatever.
Around there.
Kept dominating. Heat only shot 31.6% in the second quarter, and Duncan had 25 first half points as the Spurs took a 6-point lead heading into the half.
Yeah, this was like throwback to like 03,
like
02 Duncan.
MVP Duncan.
Yeah, still had a little bit left in the tank. They did kind of hold him in check in the third quarter, but still just couldn't get their offense in gear. They found themselves down by 10, heading into the fourth, season on the line. They started the fourth though on a 19-7 run, took the lead back with a Ray Allen layup with 6:03 to go. Also, we have to mention 9 minutes left. LeBron got a putback dunk, lost his headband, and like now it's normal to see LeBron without the headband. In fact, like when he goes back and wears the headband,
it feels weirder now.
Yeah, but at this time, we had not seen how cooked that hairline was.
Okay, I think this is around the point where he had like gotten maybe like a hair transplant. It was looking better than it was like, circa 2010 Cleveland, right?
Fair enough. But yeah, it really felt weird, but like it almost unlocked like a superpower on him because he was excellent in the fourth quarter of this game.
Spurs responded though. Tony Parker hit a huge step back 3 with 1:27 left, ties the game at 89. Chalmers turns it over on the next possession, and Parker makes the Heat pay with a tough spinning layup to give the Spurs the lead. LeBron then turns the ball over on the next possession, and Ray Allen fouls Manu on the fast break. Manu hits a pair of free throws to give the Spurs a 4-point lead, and then LeBron makes another bad play on the next possession, tosses up an air ball. Manu gets fouled, so Manu Ginobili is headed to the line with 30 seconds left, and the Spurs up 4. And this was the point where a lot of Heat fans started heading for the exits, and I'm about to, just give a little mini rant about this, all right?
Go for it.
I get it, it's Miami, it's Heat fans, just Miami sports fans in general. They kind of have a reputation for being somewhat bandwagony, somewhat fair weather fans, not going to show up unless the team is really good, last to get there, first to leave type thing. This is pathetic though. Even if you are a fair weather fan, like if you have no interest in basketball, like this is ridiculous. Like we've never seen the Blazers play in the NBA Finals. Hopefully that changes someday. But if I ever get to see an NBA Finals game in the Moda Center, the Blazers could be down 50 at halftime, and I'm staying through the rest of the game. Like to leave when it looks bad, and it's not even like the game is fully out of reach. You're down 4 with 30 seconds left, and Manu's heading the line. Like, yeah, it doesn't look good, but as we'll soon see, certainly was not impossible that you could come back. And to leave early to save what, like 15, 20 minutes to beat the traffic after spending God knows how much on Game 6 NBA Final. What do you think the cheapest ticket to get in that building was? Like $800
Yeah, I
bucks
was
probably?
going to say 700 around there.
But 15 extra minutes to get home. Like, piss off.
The good news is you get instant karma because you dropped like whatever 800. Maybe you're dropping 1,000, 2K. You leave early and you miss the best finish maybe in NBA history. So that's like the silver lining there.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad that they didn't let you back in. And to all the Heat fans who were like watching through like the glass on like the TVs and then celebrating outside American Airlines Arena, put those fake ass celebrations away. Because if you're a real fan and you actually cared, you wouldn't have left early.
Yeah, sorry for spoiling all that. I mean, I'm assuming if you're an NBA fan, you clicked on this video, you probably know what happened, but just in case you don't, let's break it down for you. Manu, of all players, a veteran, goes 1 of 2 at the line. So, you're the Spurs, you're a Spurs fan, you're still up 5, 28 seconds left. You're probably feeling pretty confident at that point.
You gotta feel confident because you're not playing the 2025 Indiana Pacers. You're playing Miami.
Well, we're about to see what happened. Heat called timeout. I believe this is the point where, you start taping up the court side. They're getting ready to bring out the trophy. Things are basically sealed. That's the point we're making here. Next possession, LeBron gets a good look at a 3, but he misses badly. Luckily, the Heat get the rebound, shove it right back to LeBron, and he drains this 3. So now all of a sudden, things are dangerous. Spurs called timeout, advance the ball, and they inbound to Kawhi, who's fouled immediately. This is a lot less surprising about going 1 of 2 at the line because, Kawhi, young player. So as mentioned, goes 1 of 2 at the line. 3-point game. You go to LeBron again. He misses again. Chris Bosh skies for the board, kicks it out to Ray Allen. Ray Allen steps back in the corner. He's got like 4 Spurs players going at him. Doesn't fucking matter. Maybe the greatest shot in NBA history, just clean swishes that 3. And this is the point we gotta ask, where the fuck is Tim Duncan.
It's been debated a lot, and I've seen people defending this move by Pop, being like, oh, they wanted, switchable defenders.
Yeah.
You want to guard the three, but you also need somebody to get the miss, right? And I understand Timmy's old. He's like, again, 35, 36 at this point. Not the most agile guy. If he gets caught in a switch, it's probably not a good look. But also, if they miss the shot, which they did, you want someone like Tim, even if he doesn't get the rebound, if he just taps it up, taps it away from Bosh, maybe there's not enough time for him to kick it back out to Ray Allen. So I get the logic that the Spurs were going for, but it was ultimately a massive mistake. And also, it's not said enough. What an unbelievable play by Ray Allen to have the presence of mind to step back into the corner. Your foot's not on the line. Your foot's not on the baseline, so you're not out of bounds. And like you said, just an absolute clean swish.
Immediately, though, the Spurs basically get a free timeout, just complete chaos.
Yeah.
They got to review if it's a three, and it was close, but Ray Allen gets both feet behind the line, so they're not allowed to advance the ball, but still got some time to talk things over.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Final chance. You give it to Tony Parker. He'd been clutch earlier in the series, and honestly, LeBron completely bumps in. Tony Parker just has to throw the ball up, gets nowhere near the hoop.
That's called a foul in the first quarter of game 43 of the regular season, but not in game 6 of the NBA
not
Finals.
In this situation, and we're headed to overtime now, which you're watching this game, I'm sure if you're there, I'm sure if you're the players, just completely shocking.
Yeah, Spurs start off 0-2 with a tough Kawhi layup, but the Heat respond about a minute later when Chris Bosh gets an and one in transition. Misses the free throw though, so we're still tied at 97. Kawhi gets another short jumper after a Duncan miss to give the Spurs back the lead, and a couple possessions later, Tony Parker hits 1 of 2 from the free throw line to extend the lead to 3. Ray Allen then hits a short jumper on the next possession to cut the lead to 1 with 1:40-ish to go. LeBron then gets a jumper to give Miami the lead. Heat and Spurs then trade defensive stops in the next several possessions until the Heat have the ball with 30 seconds left, still leading by 1. Wade misses a jumper from the top of the key, and the Spurs, they decide to play it out. Manu drives into the paint, but has the ball knocked away by Ray Allen, who gets fouled with 1.9 seconds left. Now, looking at the replay, both Breen and Van Gundy see a foul. And if I'm gonna be honest, I have no fucking clue what they're looking at. Ray Allen hits Manu on the arm a little bit, but it's after he's already knocked the ball out of his hands. He hits the ball first, Manu loses control of the ball, and then Ray's hand, slips to Manu's arm. I don't see how you could call that a foul with 2 seconds left to decide the NBA Finals.
Regardless, though, Ray Allen, he hits both free throws, pushes the Heat lead up to 3, and out of the timeout, credit to Pop, he drew up a pretty good play. Splitter sets a down screen. Danny Green then comes to the top and flares to the opposite corner. They find him, but damn, Chris Bosh makes a heck of a defensive play here.
This is like a DB, free safety type read. Just does it perfectly.
Reads the play. Danny Green gets the shot off, but basically immediately is rejected. And one of the most disrespectful blocks you'll ever see. Dwyane Blair's leaping for something, trying to get a foul call. Very clearly the cleanest block you'll see. No foul, and we're headed to game 7. Tim Duncan, you feel bad for him, gives you 30 points, but the Heat win one of the greatest games in NBA history by 3, and we got a game 7 in Miami.
So yeah, coming off one of the best games ever, how the f do you follow that up in game 7? If you're the Spurs, how do you refocus after the trophy being literal meters away from you and it's slipping through your grasp? And if you're Miami, how do you come back off the emotional high of winning one of the games of the century? And early, both teams really struggled. You could tell that there was some game 7 nerves for both sides. There were some early turnovers. Neither side really shot well. Miami had a 2-point lead after the first quarter. Things pick up in the second though. LeBron and Wade come alive, combining for 21. Spurs meanwhile get bounced, scoring from their roster, but the Heat still have a 2-point lead heading into half. Wade and LeBron had 29 points in the first half combined, and Timmy and Tony Parker combined for 23. The big story of this game, though, was the team's respective 3-point specialists. Danny Green, who, like we said, was in line for finals MVP if the Spurs had won game 6. He was 0 of 6 in the first half and had only 2 points. Meanwhile, Shane Battier came off the bench for the Heat, had 9 points and 3 3-pointers, so a big difference in your 3-point specialists in the first half.
The Spurs briefly took the lead a couple times in the third, but the Heat managed to hold on to a 1-point lead heading into the fourth behind 13 points from Bron. And in the fourth quarter, it was once again LeBron just coming up huge for the Heat. Scored 9 points in the fourth, mainly just hitting jumper after jumper. That was the game plan for the Spurs all series long. Force LeBron to beat them by hitting jumpers. You don't want him driving to the rim. The game plan made sense, and LeBron just took advantage of it. He made a pair of mid-range jumpers, then Shane Battier had 2 timely threes to keep the Heat ahead. Down the stretch though, the Heat leading by 5. Kawhi Leonard, he nails a 3 with 2 minutes to go, so the lead's cut down to 2. Chalmers gets fouled in the next possession, but he misses 2 free throws, so the Spurs now have a chance to either tie the game or take the lead. Kawhi gets a good look at a 3, but he just misses it badly. Battier then misses a 3 on the next possession, so still a 2-point game, and then on the next possession, this might still keep him up at night. Duncan gets the ball in the post against Battier, drives to the middle of the lane, little short hook shot at play he's made so many times in his career, a shot he makes 9 times out of 10.
Shot he makes in his sleep.
But he misses it, and you could just tell how he reacted, just distraught. I think he like smacks the floor before they call timeout on the next possession.
And you could see him on the bench during the timeout. Like he knows, like
he knew
he had to have that one. And it's a shot he makes so easily all the time. After the ball though, LeBron gets the ball up top. They do try to have Chalmers screen Kawhi to get Tony Parker switched onto LeBron. Kawhi and Parker though, they kind of get confused as to whether they want to switch or if they want to stay. Ends up with LeBron getting a really good look from the right wing just inside the 3-point line. Nails it with 28 seconds left. Gives the Heat a 4-point lead. And I'm just going to say it, the most underrated shot in NBA history. Like we've mentioned this a couple times. Like again, it's not a buzzer beater or anything, but it's literally a shot with less than 30 seconds left to seal a championship, and no one ever talks about it. Like even when people discuss like, oh, the great moments of LeBron's career, he's always like, oh, his buzzer beater against Orlando in 2009 or the block against Golden State in the 2016 finals. Like this barely gets mentioned.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense. Like even you'll hear the 2018 buzzer beaters against like the Pacers and the Raptors more like, you know, you have to make this shot to basically seal the finals, drains it. It's a jumper. I know people say, well, LeBron's, you know, his jumper's shaky in big moments. Like he answered all the questions on this play. Spurs on the next possession, interestingly enough, Tony Parker actually gets left on the bench. I guess the mindset is like you really need a 3. You're down 4, 28 seconds left. Spurs inbound to Duncan. He hands it back to Ginobili, who drives baseline, but he leaves his feet, throws the ball away. LeBron's then fouled. Game basically over at that point. LeBron hits his free throws. Ginobili airballs a 3 on the next possession, and it's basically over from there. Still one last like twist in the knife though. Wade's second free throw. He misses it. Battier tips the ball out to Mario Chalmers. Heat dribble out the clock. You got to mention, like, you know, they're never going to call like this, but this dude Mario Chalmers starts celebrating early, and he's just traveling his ass off, but who gives a fuck? Miami are back-to-back NBA champions.
Yeah, they prevailed 95-88 in Game 7. Wasn't on a cruise for this one, so I actually got to watch this one live as it happened. They win their second straight championship in one of the best ends to an NBA Finals you'll ever see. Like in terms of like a 2-game package of NBA Finals games, Game 6 and Game 7 of this series, hard to beat. LeBron is named 2013 Finals MVP, averages 25.3 points, 10.9 rebounds, 7 assists per game. And after receiving his second Finals MVP, you know, LeBron, he gives that iconic like smug celebration where it's kind of just like, yeah, what the fuck is anyone gonna say now? And then goes on to give a pretty good speech how he's, you know, just a kid from Akron, isn't even supposed to be there. So year 3 for Miami, honestly, how could it go any better?
It couldn't have. Like you win 66 games, you have that record win streak. Like again, not the longest win streak ever, but like the most iconic. It's gonna be talked about forever. You win your second straight championship. You silence all the doubters. Like sure, you're pushed to the limit by Indiana in the conference finals. You're pushed even farther by the Spurs in the NBA finals. But I think that makes it even more sweeter, that Game 6 comeback. Ray Allen hitting the shot of shots to, you know, keep the Heat alive, and you win in 7 to get your second straight title. So overall, undisputably the best season in Miami Heat history. I don't know if it'll ever be topped. And now you have the Heat here, a chance to be the first team since the Lakers, the Shaq and Kobe Lakers, to get a 3-peat.
So coming off their second consecutive NBA championship, the Heat once again entered the season as title favorites and really didn't do much this offseason. I mean, they had no picks in the 2013 draft, first or second round picks. So the only thing they did was they traded for the 50th overall pick, James Ennis, who did all for them. And then in free agency, they just re-signed Birdman, waived Mike Miller, and then added Greg Oden, Roger Mason Jr., and Michael Beasley. Nothing mind-blowing, but again, you're coming off a 66-win season, so probably thinking you don't need to upgrade the roster that much. It's already pretty decent. And starting their second straight title defense, the Heat actually started the season 1-2, which, fun fact, was the first time the Heat had a losing record since the Big Three's first ever game together that they lost to the Celtics.
They would pick it up over the next month, though, after dropping a home game to the Celtics where Jeff Green hit one of the craziest, underrated game winners you'll ever see.
Honestly.
Yeah. After that game, they rip off a 10-game winning streak. They're up to 14-3 after 17 games, so everything is fine at that point. That run included a game where LeBron hit a game winner versus the Magic, and despite that, pretty good start to the season, they were actually second in the Eastern Conference behind the Indiana Pacers. Of course, the Pacers, who they had just battled in the conference finals, but the Pacers really felt not having Game 7 on their home floor made a big difference, so they were gunning for the first seed. Didn't stop them from losing to the Blazers, where...
Damn right.
Yeah, LaMarcus and Roy Hibbert I always bring up. I think they said, see you in the finals.
Let's make it clear. Roy Hibbert said that.
Okay.
LaMarcus wasn't that delusional.
Fair enough.
The Heat would get their first couple matchups with the Pacers, though, in mid-December. The first matchup in Indiana, they actually got off to a great start, had a 13-point lead in the first quarter, but the Pacers had a big second half, and they beat the Heat 84-90. Second matchup only 8 days later in Miami. It looked like the Pacers were going to get another win over the Heat, but the Heat battle all the way back. Chris Bosh hits a 3 to tie the game at 92. Fun fact, he had missed his last 14 attempts from 3 prior to making that one. And then on the next possession, Ray Allen hits a 3 to give Miami the lead, and they hold on after Paul George misses a 3 with 5 seconds to go. A week later, the Heat would have another Christmas Day matchup with the Lakers. Prior to this game, LeBron starred in that Jingle Hoops ad to promote the NBA Christmas special edition sleeve jerseys. I don't think this is when the sleeve jerseys debuted, but it was the first big push the NBA made for them. Also, this might be a hot take. I thought the sleeve jerseys were a great idea that were just poorly executed. I know the players apparently hated them. I know a lot of fans hate them because they look different and whatnot, but I think the idea behind them is actually really good, because realistically, where can you wear an NBA jersey to? You can wear it to the gym and a game. And even then, if someone wears one to the gym and rolls up on the court with an NBA jersey on and no undershirt, you're making fun. I'm gonna bust this dude's ass. This is gonna be easy. I'm a big fan of soccer jerseys. I actually have 30 plus at this point, because you can just wear them as a normal shirt, right? You can't do that with NBA jerseys. So the idea of making jerseys that you can just wear out and about, I think was a great idea.
No, you're completely spot on with this. It was probably never gonna work just because like you said, players didn't really like wearing them. LeBron with the Cavs, he would rip off the arm part of it, but
I think of all players, Dirk Nowitzki roasted them on Twitter or something. And I was really?
That's so random.
Dirk's such a nice guy. The fact that he's ripping these things apart.
Yeah, but I do like the concept. Yeah, a jersey you can just wear, day to day, but unfortunately it just didn't work long term. Anyways, though, that Jingle Hoops ad, it was so good, still iconic. I watch it every Christmas.
I honestly do too.
I have to. I mean, they even remade it this past season in stop motion. Didn't quite hit as hard, but a nice homage to that just incredible commercial. Back to the actual basketball, though. The Lakers, they put up a good fight, even leading early in the fourth, but Miami goes on a late run in the fourth and they win 101-95. LeBron and Wade, just some more classic alley-oops this game, including one where Wade just threw it off the backboard. So, Christmas Day, you're still getting your entertainment.
Yep.
And then a few days after that, the Heat actually came to Portland. LeBron James didn't play, but Chris Bosh gives you 37. He hits an insane game-winning 3 a couple feet beyond the arc, an incredible pass by D Wade. I just remember seeing this being how the fuck did Chris Bosh just torch us like that? I mean, credit to Chris Bosh. He had a lot of clutch threes this season for some reason.
He did.
But that game was crazy.
Also in early January, they went on the road to Brooklyn to play the first ever nickname jersey game. I know you don't really like this, but personally, I fucking love it. I get it doesn't work for every player, and some guys, you gotta stretch what's their nickname, because some guys just don't have any nicknames. And honestly, if they brought it back nowadays, it would be fucking hilarious, considering the state of NBA nicknames. What are we gonna put the anomaly on the back of Tatum's jersey?
I guess. Jesus. I mean, like you said, it works really well for the main players, King James, Truth, Big Ticket, all that. But just the other guys, we're really rocking with the Cole train for Norris Cole. Mirza Teletovic, I think, just said, "Fuck it, I don't even care. He was MT, like
MT.
But it was like a cool thing to try.
Well, Chris Bosh was CB.
Right. I mean, you gotta have a little bit more than that. It was a cool thing to try. I'll give the NBA credit, sleeve jerseys, nickname jerseys. They're trying stuff, obviously trying to make more money is the main thing, but it didn't work for everyone. That was the main problem.
The Heat hummed along for the next couple of months. They once again had all three members of the Big Three representing them at All-Star Weekend. Team Bosh won their second straight Shooting Stars Challenge, but in the main event, the All-Star game itself, the Big Three kind of played like shit. I mean, LeBron had 22 points, 7 boards, and 7 assists, but it took him 22 shots to do it, and he was 0 of 7 from 3. Wade and Bosh both shot well, but they only combined for 15 points, but the East still prevails thanks to Kyrie's MVP performance. Over the next month, the Heat continued to play well. They go on an 8-game winning streak that started before the All-Star break. That included LeBron's iconic game winner in Golden State against the Warriors. Also, in a blowout win against the Thunder, LeBron broke his nose after dunking on Serge Ibaka, which somehow wasn't called a foul, bafflingly. I don't know, but that led to the debut of Masked LeBron, where he wore this just sick as fuck all black like carbon fiber mask. It went so hard. The Heat were even selling shirts with the mask on it. So of course the league made him stop doing it.
Of course. Yeah, but to take out his anger, about a week later, he drops a career high 61 points against the Bobcats on March 3rd, shoots 22 of 33, 8 of 10 from 3, still chips in 7 boards and 4 assists as the Heat crush Charlotte. I will say though, as a big LeBron fan, I always hated how his career high was against the Bobcats because it felt a bit too easy,
well, it's like a team that doesn't really exist anymore. Like, yes, they do because they're the Hornets, but like, who was LeBron's career high against? Like the Bobcats. It's like
who?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that'll add to the mythos of LeBron, like in decades to come. It's like LeBron beat him down so hard they don't even exist anymore. But regardless, balled out that game, and also, not just his career high, a Heat franchise record. He eclipsed Glenn Rice's 56 that was scored against the Magic in 1995. They would struggle a bit though following this win, losing 5 of the next 6 games, but they'd get back on track down the stretch of the season, even retook the top seed for a brief bit as the Pacers really struggled down the stretch, but the Heat did kind of choke the first seed away, only won 1 of their final 6 games, but at the same time, veteran team, already coming off 2 titles. I don't think they cared really at all.
I don't think they were bothered at all. Yeah, I don't think they gave a shit. I mean, with all the problems this Pacers team was having, like the Heat had beaten them the year prior, I don't think they cared whatsoever. So the Heat finished the season with a 54-28 record, the lowest winning percentage for any season with the Big Three, and way down from their 66 wins they had the year prior. I mean, that's going to happen when you don't have a 27-game winning streak in the middle of the season, but actually, fun fact, the Heat started that winning streak in 2013 after 43 games when they were 29-14. At the 43-game mark of this season, they actually had a better record at 31-12. So kind of clear that they just relaxed a little bit in the second half of the season. So they get the second seed, and the first round, they match up with the Charlotte Bobcats.
And in that series, to no one's surprise, the Heat just dominated them. I mean, we're not going to go game by game, just like the Bucks series from the year prior. I mean, game 2 was really the only close game, just like the Bucks series again. And Charlotte never really got hammered, but the Heat won basically every game comfortably outside of that game 2. We will mention in game 3, the most notable thing from this game, LeBron with that breakaway dunk, staring down Jordan the entire time. I love it.
It's the most notable thing from this entire series.
Yeah, it's the most notable thing from the Charlotte Bobcats, franchise, basically. But it was just great symbolism as LeBron going for a three-peat at the time, really cementing himself, starting to get mentioned in GOAT talks, kind of like sending a message like, I'm chasing you down.
Also, a quick little rant here. We've seen in a lot of, recent playoff series, a lot of fans are reluctant, let me say, to put on the playoff jerseys that the teams provide. I would like to point out that Michael Jordan was wearing the playoff shirt. So random ass rich guy in the 100 level who's like, oh no, I'm wearing a really nice flannel today. I can't put on, a playoff shirt over that. Fucking Air Jordan is not too good to put on the damn playoff shirt, and neither are you. So round 2 of the playoffs, they match up with the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn, of course, had made their all-in trade the offseason prior, sent out picks that would eventually become Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for a 36-year-old Paul Pierce, 37-year-old Kevin Garnett, and a 36-year-old Jason Terry. And while their season went pretty damn poorly, they regressed from 49 wins to only 44 wins. They did go 4-0 against the Heat in the regular season. And fun fact, they are the only team in the entire Big Three era to sweep the Heat 4-0 in the regular season. Other teams had beaten them 3-0, and I'm sure teams had beaten them 2-0, but this Nets team was the only one that had swept them 4-0. So even though they won 10 fewer games and the Heat were definitely the big favorite, the Nets had shown that they could beat this Heat team. In game one, well, it was close for a half. I mean, the Heat built a 9-point lead midway through the second quarter, but the Nets closed the half strong, and after a Darren Williams buzzer beater, the Heat win to halftime, leading by only 3 points, and then Miami clobbered the Nets in the second half, outscored them 61-43, ran away with a 21-point win. LeBron pours in 22, Wade, Bosh, Chalmers, and Ray Allen all chip in double digits, and the Heat take a 1-0 lead.
And then game two, kind of the same thing. I mean, it's competitive early. The Heat really struggled to shoot out the gate. They were just 6 of 18 in the first and fell down by 6 at the end of the first quarter. They were much better in the second quarter, but our boy MT, Mirza Teletovic, went shot for shot with them, so the Nets hold on to a 1-point lead going into the half. Teletovic, 12 second quarter points, nearly as much as the rest of the Nets combined, all of them on 3-pointers, by the way, but the Heat, they just dominated the second half, retook the lead in the third, outscored the Nets by 10 in the fourth, and eventually win 94-82 to take a 2-0 lead in the series.
Game 3 in Brooklyn, first half was very back and forth. 8 ties, 10 lead changes. LeBron went for 18 in the first half, but Joe Johnson gave the Nets 12 on 4 of 4 from 3, and Andre Blatch stepped up big time off the bench, 13 first half bench points. Heat only trailed by 2 at halftime, but they fell apart in the third. They only shot 5 of 19 from the field, scoring only 14 points, got down by as much as 16 in the third, and the Nets got that up to 20 in the fourth, cruised to a 104-90 victory to get back in the series. And then in game 4, Heat got off to a great start thanks to LeBron just going fucking crazy. They had a 7-point halftime lead thanks to LeBron's 25 first half points. Nets kept it close in the second half though and actually took the lead early in the fourth quarter, but LeBron was just as good in the second half as he was in the first. He had 24 second half points, giving him 49 for the game, tying at the time his playoff career high. And down the stretch, who else but fucking Chris Bosh nailing a clutch 3.
Another.
I don't get it. Like he really had a knack for it around this time.
There's still one more to come.
Yeah, there is. That's true. The Nets missed their chances though on the other end, and the Heat seal it with free throws to prevail 102-96. They take a 3-1 lead, headed back to South Beach.
So yeah, game 5, the Heat are 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, and you'd think they'd probably, coast a win here, but Brooklyn just made them work for it. The Nets jump out to an 11-4 early lead, and then after trading the lead with the Heat in the second quarter, they led by 7 going into halftime. You get 29 combined from Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, and Paul Pierce, while for the Heat, it's basically just Wade keeping you in it with 20 at the half. But the Heat come out flying in the second half. They go on a 7-0 run to tie the game. Nets, though, once again, they respond with a run of their own, push the lead back up to 10. It's a 9-point lead entering the fourth, but in the fourth, the Heat just start to cut into that lead. LeBron gives you 14 fourth quarter points. He nails a 3 with 2:48 remaining to cut the lead down to 5. On the next possession, Wade hits a short jumper to cut it down to 3. Joe Johnson misses again, so Miami has the ball down 1, a chance to take the lead. Coming out of the timeout, they go to LeBron, who dishes it to Chalmers, and then out of like a 2K animation, he's going up for a shot, passes it to Ray Allen, who just nails the jumper.
Well, this is how you know it's not 2K, because if it was 2K, he'd just throw the ball out of bounds, exactly. Like 5 feet over Ray Allen's head.
That 3 gives them the lead, and on the next possession, Sean Livingston, despite what you've seen on TikTok or Twitter, actually missed a mid-range shot.
I never thought it was possible. I don't know if I've ever seen him miss one, but he missed one here. Ray Allen hits 2 free throws to push the lead to 4, but the next possession, the Nets swing the ball around, and Joe Johnson nails a corner 3 to cut it right back down to 1. LeBron hits 1 of 2 free throws, so on the final possession, you're down 2 as the Nets. You got a chance, but Joe Johnson is stripped by Ray Allen, and the Heat survive 96-94, win the series 4-1. Ray Allen sticks it to his former teammates, Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and the Heat advance to their 4th straight Eastern Conference Finals.
And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, just like last year, it's the Indiana Pacers. The matchup we definitely expected going to the playoffs, but the vibes for the Pacers going into the playoffs and even going into the series were just bad.
They were way off.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, like they had a great start to the regular season, but down the stretch of it, they really struggled. I mean, they wanted home court, and they technically got it, but down the stretch of the season, you go 10-13 in your final 23 games. You had to fend off a 38-win Hawks team in the first first round. And you do beat, the Wizards with John Wall, Bradley Beal to make it to the conference finals. They got there, they had home court, but still, the Heat were dominant in the playoffs leading up to this, had only lost one game thus far, so they were the heavy favorites going into this series. But I mean, in game one, Indiana looked like that team we saw early in the season. They were absolutely dominant. They jump out to a double-digit lead, never trailed on their way to a 107-96 victory, led by as much as 19. They got at least 15 from all 5 starters, and they took a 1-0 series lead.
Yeah, game 2 again, the Pacers get off to a really solid start. They lead the Heat by 8 early, but by the end of the half, the Heat had come back, taken a 4-point lead. Wade and Lance Stevenson were dueling in the first half, both going for 13 first half points. The Heat and the Pacers traded the lead throughout the entire second half, but down the stretch, the Heat go on a 10-0 run to take a 7-point lead with only 2 minutes to go. Wade especially was brilliant down the stretch. He scored 8 of the Heat's final 9 points as Miami stole home court 87-83. Wade and LeBron combined for 45, and while all Pacers players scored in double figures and Lance goes for 25, the Heat bench outscored the Pacers bench 20-9, and the Pacers just weren't able to replicate their offensive performance from game 1. So we're going back to Miami, tied 1-1, and in game 3, the Heat just didn't have it in the first quarter. They shot 37.5%, had 7 first quarter turnovers, and the Pacers jumped out to a 14-point lead early and led by 7 after 1. Pacers pushed that lead up to 15 in the second, but the Heat were much better in the second quarter, shot 60%, kept pace with the Pacers, but were still down 4 going into halftime. But after that, Miami completely took over. I mean, Paul George did what he could, scoring 13 points in the second half, but he was no match for LeBron, Wade, and Ray Allen, who outscored the Pacers by themselves 47-45 in the second half. Heat retook the lead late in the third and built on it throughout the rest of the game and would go on to win 99-87 to take a 2-1 lead.
Game 4, Miami finally gets off to a good start. They immediately go up 8-0, led by 8 after the first. LeBron and Bosh combined for 18 first quarter points. And a fun fact here, Chris Bosh, first time in the series scoring double figures.
Yeah, it took him a while.
And he did it just in the first quarter. The Pacers were able to keep pace in the second quarter, but the Heat took a 5-point lead going into the half. But just like game 3, the Heat blew things open in the third quarter. LeBron goes for 14 in the third, pushed the lead up to as high as 19, extended it to 23 in the fourth. And the Pacers, they would go on a run in the fourth quarter to make it more respectable, but the Heat still win 102-90. They take a 3-1 stranglehold on the series. So now we're back to Indiana. The Heat have the chance to advance their 4th straight NBA Finals. And as expected, the Pacers just came out swinging, led by 6 after the first, but then the Heat just completely dominated the second quarter, held the Pacers to only 11 second quarter points, had a 9-point lead at halftime. You're kind of thinking, the Pacers are just gonna die from here. You're down, you're facing elimination, but Paul George, he just came out flying in the second half. Pacers doubled up the Heat in the third quarter, outscoring them 31-15. And then despite a big fourth quarter offensively from the Heat, Paul George gives you 21 fourth quarter points, hit some big threes down the stretch. I mean, Miami had some chances very late in this game. Down 4, LeBron has a chase down block on George Hill, comes out of nowhere to swat it. On the other end, Rashard Lewis nails a corner 3, so the lead's down to 1. David West then goes 1 of 2 at the line, so the lead's back to 2. And on the next possession, Chris Bosh misses a corner 3. David West is then back at the foul line. He goes 1 of 2 again, but there's just not much time left. The Heat aren't able to secure the rebound, so Pacers hold off the Heat. They extend their season, win 93-90.
Yeah, but that's not what everyone remembers this game for. This game was the game where Lance Stevenson blew in LeBron's ear as maybe the greatest attempt at mind games I've ever seen on an NBA court. I mean, the look on LeBron's face is all-time hysterical. He just is like, I can't believe what this motherfucker is doing.
I mean, he just laughs and is shaking his head like, bro, this man is crazy.
This dude fair play to Lance. LeBron scored 7 points in this game. He played fucking terribly, so maybe Lance should have done it more often, but the fact that the cameras caught it too and they catch LeBron's reaction, it's just, it's
cinema.
It is cinema. It's such a great moment. Game 6 in Miami, again, do or die for the Pacers, and boy, you wouldn't know by the way they played this game. The Heat utterly dominated. They fell down 7-2 early, but they raced out to an 11-point lead after the first, and by halftime, that lead was up to 26. The Heat shot nearly 58%, got 25 apiece from LeBron and Bosh, and despite Paul George pouring in 28 second half points, the Heat crushed the Pacers 117-92 to take the series, a far more anticlimactic series than the one we got the year prior. Miami wins in 6 as most expected and advances to their 4th consecutive NBA Finals. Fun fact, becoming the first team since Larry Bird's Celtics in the mid-80s to accomplish such a feat. And in the finals, they're facing an old foe in the San Antonio Spurs.
I mean, this was a dominant Spurs team, 62-20 record. They go on a 19-game winning streak from late February to early April. They did have that weird series in the first round where the Mavericks took them to 7, but after that, they lay a beat down on the Blazers. We remember that. And then get revenge on the Thunder in the conference finals, avenging their 2012 conference finals loss. I mean, predictions for this series basically split down the middle. I mean, last year it went to the very end. You had to expect this was going to be close. You know, like we said, split down the middle, maybe leaning the Spurs because they were so dominant. Should have beat them the year prior.
The one constant was everyone was thinking this was going 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, exactly. Game 1, the AC is out in San Antonio, and yeah, that had to be hell in there.
I tell you what, at my high school, we had like the new gym that had AC, and they had the old gym with no AC. And dude, trying to play in the old gym in like early September, fucking like 90 degrees, a nightmare. It sucks. So I can't imagine what these guys are going through.
And that's Portland, Oregon, not San Antonio, Texas.
Exactly.
Game 1, it was back and forth early. The Spurs did take a 5-point lead at halftime, despite the big 3 plus Ray Allen giving them 45. Meanwhile, the Spurs big 3 combined for 36 points, but they also got contributions from Tiago Splitter, Bellinelli, and Patty Mills. In the third quarter, the Heat were able to turn up the pressure on defense. They forced 8 Spurs turnovers and shot the lights out from 3. They were 5 of 11 in the quarter. They took a 4-point lead headed into the fourth. In the fourth quarter, though, after taking a 7-point lead, they just completely crumbled. The Spurs end the game on a 31-9 run. Kawhi Leonard caps things off with a 3. Notably, though, in the middle of that run for the Spurs, when they had just taken back the lead, as we said, it was hot as hell in the arena. Fans were like waving themselves. They were so damn hot. Imagine how it was for the players.
Mike Breen was like mentioning on commentary, like just watching this game is hard.
Yeah, LeBron goes up for a layup. It cuts the Spurs lead down to 2. But after that, he starts cramping up. He has to get taken out of the game. And of course, the media reaction, the fan reaction to this was just, it was brain dead.
It's
to
pathetic.
Be honest.
Have you ever like cramped before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple times like after lifting weights and whatnot. It happens to like my left arm for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, dude, my left arm like locks up and I like can't move it at all. Like, I can't imagine someone the size of LeBron cramping up. And again, if you think like he faked this for some reason, because I see that on like YouTube comments of like videos of like when this happened and whatnot. Like, if you think he faked like the OKC cramps to like enhance his legacy a little bit, like, oh, he came back and he fought through the cramps and he hit that 3. I can understand that. I don't think that's what happened, but I get the logic. If you think he faked cramps and would sit the last 4 minutes of a finals game with his team down 2, you're crazy.
The only person I thought made a valid point, Colin Coward, he was saying like, you know, LeBron, it's 90 degrees in the arena, probably even hotter for you, like playing on the court. Why are you wrapped up in all these like leggings, the shooting sleeves and everything? I know the drip was hard at the time, like that's what you had to do, but come on, man, take some of that shit off at halftime.
Either way, though, the 3-pointer was the weapon of choice for the Spurs. They hit their final 6 3-point attempts to turn a close game into a laugher, and they take a 1-0 lead in the series. I mean, the Heat played pretty well on offense. They shot 47%, and the big 3 plus Ray Allen combined for 78 points, but they just got completely ripped to shreds by the Spurs in the fourth. Game 2, again, Spurs get off to a great start. Tim Duncan has 11 first quarter points. Spurs lead by 7 after the first. Heat, though, respond with a strong second quarter, including 11 points in the quarter from LeBron to tie the game at 43 going into halftime. Second half of this game, though, was a tale of 2 quarters. The third quarter was an offensive explosion. The Heat shot 76.5% from the field, scored 34 points. Meanwhile, the Spurs shot 52.2% from the field, scored 35 points of their own. And then the fourth quarter was a defensive battle, despite weirdly enough, both teams still shooting well from 3. But the Heat and Spurs trade the lead throughout the fourth. And again, Chris Bosh comes through a massive 3 with 1:18 left, gives the Heat a 2-point lead. LeBron extended the lead to 3 after some free throws. arrows, and after a Ginobili miss, Wade sealed it with a layup off a beautiful pass from Bosh. Ginobili hit a 3 at the buzzer to make the score look a little bit better, but Miami comes into San Antonio, steals game 2 98-96. Spoiler alert, it's by far the best game of this series. 12 ties, 17 lead changes throughout the game. LeBron goes for 35 points, 10 boards as the Heat steal home court advantage.
And going into game 3 at least, my sentiment is someone who, wanted to see LeBron, the Heat win this series. I'm like, game 1 they only lost because of the cramps.
Right.
Game 2 they get the win. Like, this series is theirs now. Yeah, that's not what happened at all. The Spurs basically just destroyed them from the tip. The Spurs had a 16-point lead after the first quarter. They only missed 2 shots the whole quarter, and Kawhi led the way with 16 points. And it got even worse in the second quarter as the halftime lead ballooned to 71-50. I mean, Miami wasn't playing that bad offensively. Shot 56% from the field, 50% from 3, had 7 3-point makes, but they were sloppy with the ball, and just to put it bluntly, the Spurs played perfect basketball.
Yeah, I mean, we have like the video on them where it's like the Spurs are the perfect team.
Yes.
They were. I mean, there's only so much you could do when the other team shoots 76% from the field and 70% from 3.
That's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. Like, the Heat had a strong third quarter, and they even got it down to 7 at one point, but the Spurs turned it right back on in the fourth quarter, ran away with this game 111-92. Kawhi goes off for what at the time was a playoff career high 29, and you also get contributions from Tony Parker, Duncan, Danny Green, and Manu. Wade and LeBron both go for 22 for the Heat, but they were utterly outmatched by the Spurs. And then game 4 in Miami, chance to get back on track, and this game went exactly the same as game 3, like to an eerily similar amount. Spurs jump out to the big first quarter lead. This time it was 9 after the first, and by the 1:30 mark of the second quarter, the lead's back up to 20. Like, this Spurs team was straight up just putting on a clinic in how to play team basketball.
I mean, you mentioned it. We made the video on them. It was just perfect basketball. The ball movement, the unselfishness, the giving up a good shot for a great shot. It was incredible to watch, and the Heat just had zero answer for it. I mean, they fought back a bit in the third, got the lead down to 13, but that was their best punch, and it was like the Thanos, like all that for a drop of blood. Because the Spurs just absorbed that. At the end of the third, they pushed the lead up to 24, and they cruised to a 107-86 victory. I mean, LeBron again was great. He had 28, but like one of the things I remember most about this series is LeBron still played really well. He was still at the peak of his game.
He was, yeah.
But like Wade, the injuries, he was slower. Bosh wasn't as good, and the supporting cast just really didn't do much to help.
The more I think about this series, I think like game 2 was like Hulk beating Thanos' ass at the beginning of Infinity War. The rest of the series is what happened after that. Like,
exactly.
Thanos just beats him like a Cherokee drum and then just drops his ass. Also, a funny thing I remember after this game is just how devastated Stephen A. Smith was on First Take the next day. Like, they're doing First Take live from some fucking like pool party at like 9 a.m. in Miami. I guess there's always a party somewhere in Miami. And he's just openly admitting defeat. He's just like, it's over, it's done. The crowd's like booing him and it's like, oh no, it's done. He's like, no, this is over. This shit's done.
I mean, I was watching that back and he literally said he was depressed. And you could tell.
He was. Game 5, do or die for the Heat. And to put it simply, like, they emptied the clip early. I mean, they came out the gates on fire, led 22-6 after the first 7 minutes. Problem was, that was their best shot. And the Spurs absorbed it and didn't even flinch. They dominated the second quarter, held Miami to only 11 points, retook the lead by halftime, dominated the third behind 14 points and 4 threes from Patty Mills. And by the 5-minute mark of the third quarter, keep in mind the Heat led this game 22-6. And by the 5-minute mark of the third quarter, the Spurs were up 21.
Yeah, the Spurs just, again, cruise to their 5th championship. They win 104-87 and dominate the Heat by a record finals margin. We'll say it every time we can. I mean, the 4 games they won this series, they just dominated, won all 4 by at least 15 points. Genuinely, maybe the best finals performance I've ever seen by a team, at least that I've watched personally, maybe like the 2018 Warriors, but I don't think that even compares because that Cavs team was so bad while this Heat team, like leading up to this finals, was pretty dominant.
Exactly, yeah.
The Spurs team was just better, and no team in NBA history honestly beats that Spurs team if the Spurs play at that level.
Exactly.
Even like 2017 Warriors, 2018 Warriors, this Spurs team, we'll say it again for the 3rd time, played perfect basketball.
And also, again, First Take after the Spurs win the title. hysterical because they're doing it like from the Riverwalk in San Antonio. And of course, Skip is like the king of the world there. Like the only place he's like genuinely popular is the city of San Antonio. The 2014 offseason, though, this is where the big three finally fell apart. After years of it being a rumor, and I thought a completely far-fetched, impossible rumor, honestly, LeBron announced on July 11th, 2014, via an essay in Sports Illustrated that he was returning to the Cavaliers, and he officially signed, get this, a 2-year, $42 million contract. So I took the liberty of putting together a nice little list of guys who are making right around, $24 to $18 million, right in that range. So we've got Kyle Kuzma, KCP,
Yikes.
Marcus Smart, Jakob Poeltl, Nurk, Colin Sexton, and Zach Collins.
Okay, the Zach Collins one is out of pocket. To be fair, like we're rounding up a little bit. I think it's like 18 and a half or 17.
That's why I said 24 to 18 million.
But that's crazy.
Around that range, That's what roughly $21 million gets you now in the modern NBA. And in 2014, it got you LeBron.
I mean, there were many reasons LeBron left the Heat. Dwyane Wade's declining game, his declining health. There was the whole Pat Riley, the clashes with him, stealing his cookies, of course. And of course, he wanted to go back home to Cleveland. It was written into the stars. He needed to go back there, fulfill his promise, win that title. So the Heat lose LeBron, and that's basically considered the breakup of the Heatles. You lose your main piece, you lose one of the big three, but they almost lost Chris Bosh this offseason as well. Many people might forget, but Bosh was strongly considering signing with the Rockets for a 4-year, $88 million deal. I mean, with a healthy Bosh, we'll talk about what happened. Like, this could have been a pretty good big three.
Yeah, him and Harden and Dwight.
Yeah, Harden there. You have Chris Bosh, who can obviously space the floor, and then you have Dwight as the interior presence. But after LeBron left, the Heat were like, we cannot lose Bosh as well. They signed him to a 5-year, $118 million deal.
Yeah, so the Heat retained Bosh, but losing LeBron, it means the big three is officially over. They tried to plug the LeBron-shaped hole in their roster with Luol Deng.
Okay.
And they also traded for Goran Dragic midseason, and Hassan Whiteside also had a pretty nice breakout year for the Heat, but injuries to Dwyane Wade and, of course, Chris Bosh's blood clot issues really prevented Miami from getting any kind of momentum, and they would go on to miss the playoffs. LeBron and the Cavs would go on to make the finals, of course, but they would fall to the Golden State Warriors. And then fast forward to the next season, the Heat reload again. This time they add Joe Johnson, Gerald Green, Tyler Johnson, Josh Richardson, and Amari Stoudemire, and we were so damn close to seeing a Heat versus Cavaliers matchup in the NBA playoffs. The Cavs had swept their way all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and were awaiting the winner of the Heat-Raptors series. And I always hate the Raptors like 1.5% from this. I know a while back we had like, the We the North thing and like We the Norther.
Right,
like there's always like kind of been like a little bit of like a friendly thing between the Blazers and the Raptors and whatnot. But the fact that we missed out on the opportunity to see LeBron and Dwyane Wade go against each other in the NBA playoffs just so we could watch the Raptors get curb stomped by Cleveland again just pisses me off.
Yeah, we wanted to see LeBron curb stomp the Heat, not curb stomp the Raptors again.
Exactly. We got enough of that. We don't need to see it again.
From there, the remaining members of the Big Three would leave the Heat. First, it was Bosh being forced to retire. He was dealing with the whole blood clot situation, really just heartbreaking stuff there. He actually missed the entire second half of the 2016 season, and despite a few attempts at return to the NBA, he'd never play in the league again. And then it was D Wade shockingly leaving the Heat in the 2016 offseason. He goes to Chicago. Of course, he got like shortchanged on a contract offer. Always really surprised to see that and like hear about that again because it's D Wade. Like he's Mr. Miami. Like you can't just pay him the damn money.
And it's such a blip on his career too.
Yeah.
Like his year with Chicago and like his half year with Cleveland.
Yeah.
So only 2 years after their 4th straight finals appearance, all 3 members of the Big Three had left the Heat. And just like talking about the legacy of this team, like most of the discussion has been whether or not they were a success. Obviously, there were sky high expectations, maybe higher expectations than any team in NBA history. And of course, the players leaned into that. We had the welcome party, not 2, not 3, not 4. LeBron saying this might be the best trio to ever play basketball. And honestly, even 11 years after they broke up, like I'm still not sure what to think of this whole era. Like I think the biggest thing that throws me off is like just how quick it was. Like it was only 4 years. And on day one, LeBron told us they were going to win 8 championships. So it really ended before a lot of people thought it would. But I think the best way to think about it is like, go back to the night of the decision and picture someone saying to you, like, here's everything this team's going to do over the next 4 seasons. Basically, just show them this video. Go back in time and show them this video, right? Would it be deemed a success? Like, honestly, even given everything they achieved, probably not. And I think the crazy thing is that sentiment is the exact opposite if they just beat Dallas in 2011.
I completely agree. I mean, it's such a blemish on the resume of this team. They're still an all-time team, but you lose that Dallas series. LeBron plays awful. It's a series you 100% should have won. And let's say like they did win it. Let's, alternate history here. That's 3 straight titles, the first 3-peats in Shaq and Kobe. There hasn't been a 3-peat since. I mean, that would be talked about all the time.
Doesn't look like there's gonna be one anytime soon, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. With the second apron and everything. Like, you don't have the whole like LeBron choking. You don't have just everything that happened there. I mean, that alone, yeah, probably changes everything. But I mean, you said it. When LeBron's going not 7, not 8. Yeah, we didn't get not 7, not 8. We didn't get either of those. We got 2. So like, in some ways, yeah, it didn't fully live up to expectations, but 2 straight titles, 4 straight finals appearances. Obviously, they're not a failure whatsoever.
Yeah, all that being said, like, to me at least, this is always going to be the most iconic NBA team of all time. Like, we didn't grow up with Magic's Lakers or Bird's Celtics or Jordan's Bulls or Shaq and Kobe's Lakers. Like, this was the iconic team of our childhood. Like, there was nothing better than getting out of school, coming home, turning on TNT at like 4:30 on a Thursday and watching LeBron, Wade, and Bosh just destroy some poor, helpless team. Like, every time you watched them take the court, you felt like you were witnessing history in a way. Plus, this was right around the time that like First Take was hitting it big. Social media was in its infancy. By the end of their run, like NBA 2K YouTubers were starting to hit it big. Like, this was such an unbelievable time to be a young NBA fan. And like, even though we've seen, dynasties before and since, like, I'm not sure there's ever gonna be a team I enjoyed watching as much as this Miami Heat team.
Yeah, I think for me as well, the most iconic team I've ever watched. So damn hated. I think the hate even surpassed the KD Warriors. I mean, they were the most hated sports team I've ever seen.
They were the best hate watch out there.
Yeah, above the Patriots, never been big into MLB, so I don't know about like above the Astros after the cheating scandal, but everyone hated them. We saw LeBron kind of grow up, become a champion, add to his legacy. Yeah, I love the highlights, the full court alley-oops. Never gonna forget this team, and like outside of my personal teams, yeah, favorite NBA team of all time.
That's the video, guys. How will you remember the Heatles? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.